Hello, and welcome to another episode of Myths and Stories, a Destiny 2 lore podcast. I thank you all for waiting the extra week for us. I said we had a little mini break there that was not intended, but had some family stuff pop up that just couldn't wait. So appreciate y'all, sticking with us for a little bit there. But this episode we are going to go over the recently completed Veil Containment logs, and then do a little bit of a deep dive into what we think, uh, some theories that we've come up with that have come out of those logs that may give us some clues as to what is going on in the grander Destiny universe going forward as we get ready for the final shape. Um,
Ooh,
dun
final
dun dun.
shape. I'm so excited for this reveal that's coming soon.
I am
Uh,
too.
obviously we're gonna do an episode for that. So yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the veil containment stuff was all. So this was one of those things that again it's kind of a mixed bag of how it was handled, as far as like Bungie's side. A lot of people thought that this stuff should have been alongside everything in Lightfall to kind of like complement the story there. But nonetheless, it's here. It's in game. It is the way you access it is on when you open the director and you go to Neomuna. Down in the bottom left corner, there's a little mission icon. You go into that, and when you load in, you're in that. I don't know what to call it. That the upload room is the only thing I can think to describe it. There's all
Yeah.
those little chairs and computers and everything, and you're right in front of big old glass window looking into the veil itself, and uh, there's a little terminal that you can go up to, and you can they accumulate. So if you waited to the end, you could listen to all 12 in order,
Hmm.
and you just start one log and listen to it, and go to the next, and go to the next. And that's all the mission is. It's just you listening to this log. Well, I guess it's more than you. Osiris and Nimbus
Yep.
are on comms with you as well, listening to these logs as well. And everyone's kind of learning. I say learning information all at the same time. It seems throughout all these logs. There's times where Nimbus has a reaction. He's like, "What the hell?" And there's times where Osiris is like, "Yeah, I kind of saw that coming, and I was
Hmm.
that stupid as a younger me too." So yeah, so there's a lot of fun uh, um, in-game character emotions that are happening between characters, and while they're listening to this log. So it's yeah, but the log itself is uh, it's told from the point of view of and I'm going to get her name wrong, Myth.
Chioma.
Chioma. I'm gonna I'm
Chioma
gonna
Essie.
I'm gonna screw that up as many times as I can this episode. Chioma Essie. So these are and as much as I'm going to screw these up, these are still names to be important and remember.
Yes.
Um, fuck, I've already done it, Myth. I've already messed it up. Miss Essie, E,
There
I'll
you go.
call her. How about that? We'll call her E. I'll call her E. You'll call her correctly, and everyone else will. She is recalling these audio logs, or these are recordings, audio logs from her, that she has recorded throughout essentially the history of Neomuna, like since
Hmm.
crash landing there.
Yep.
There are time jumps between them. We don't really have a definitive amount of time, do we, Myth?
We don't. We have a couple of events that happen or that are referenced. That kind of give us a very rough idea of timing for some of the logs, but nothing definitive.
Okay, I didn't think so. Um, and she is recalling events that are in reference to her. I'm assuming wife, significant other. We'll call her that. A one Maya Sundaresh,
Yes.
who we've talked about in our Clovis Bray series, or I guess
Yep.
technically
Kind of. Yeah.
Technically not the right Maya Sundaresh, an evil Vex clone of Maya Sundaresh that wants to kill Clovis Bray. Kind of on her side of this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Maya Sundaresh is a big name in Destiny that we don't really. I mean, we have a little bit of info about her, but we don't really have a lot about her. She's kind of like she'd be what I would consider the greatest supporting actress throughout all of Destiny history, right? Because she's always mentioned here, there, and everywhere, but she's
Yeah.
never like up front and center like Clovis Bray was.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
that is a good way to look at it. So because she is such a prolific but not in the limelight character, we are going to preface the containment logs with just a um, very kind of thousand mile up view summary of her accomplishments and why she's important to the Destiny universe. Yeah, not going to dig into this lore card, this entry kind of thing, because we're not really here to learn about Maya in particular, but it is valuable to have an idea of who she was going into those logs.
yeah. Well, cool. Let's start there then. So yeah, let's start off with that. Let's who is Maya Sundaresh? Thousand mile view. Go.
So Maya Sundaresh is a scientist. Is married to Chioma Essie. She is Chioma's wife. They by the lore card tellings, they have been together for a very long time. They actually met in undergraduate year of university.
So
Um,
pre Maya working
for
for
anything,
anything
yeah.
for Ishtar or Clovis.
Yep. Um, so they've been together for pretty much all of our known kind of history points for Maya. Um, Maya first entered the scene, as far as we're concerned, in a big way, uh, because she was a part of the Ishtar Academy during the Golden Age. At the Ishtar Academy, she studied various things on Venus, but primarily the Vex. Which we talked a little bit about this during this time. She was under the protection of an exo bodyguard named Cade. Uh,
Boom.
yeah, we talked about that in our Cade series. But while she was there with Chioma as well as some other colleagues, a Dr. Shim, and a Dr. McNida, McNeid.
Is it your turn to butcher a name?
Yes, it is. But regardless, they captured a Vex uh, at this research facility for the Ishtar Academy, and they designated that Vex as Subject 12.
Bob.
Um, sure.
Is it no, well, honestly, I'm kind of serious on this one. Is this the same Vex that Clovis used to build the portal?
I don't believe so, because
Okay.
I'm pretty sure Clovis pulled his Vex directly from, well,
Ah, this could be Bob.
yeah,
This could be the
I
origin of
guess I'm not
Bob.
sure. I'm not sure. I don't have enough information to confirm nor deny.
Fair enough. Because that's
Uh,
and again, I know this isn't a Vex episode, but I got to poke this for a second.
yeah.
I still don't truly understand when the Vex were first here in the Sol system. I've heard two theories. One, they've always been here, and two, they retroactively inserted themselves into our history to have been here. So therefore, part A is mostly true since once we found them, but they don't travel in time, and that's the weird thing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't know how to truly answer that definitively without like this
doing a
being a
Vex
Vex
deep dive.
episode.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. I
um
guess that part is never really important. It's just it's always
yeah.
confused me as like I know that the Ishtar Collective, I guess the entire Ishtar, I guess the Ishtar Academy is part of the Ishtar Collective, has always been on the Ishtar Sink in Venus, and they've always studied the Vex, and the Vex have always been central to Venus. But then we see things like Mercury, which is completely vexified. We see things like Nessus, which is mostly vexified. Vexified? Yeah, we're using that now.
Sure.
Uh, so like those are kind of, and then even Mars. Mars has a lot of vexified areas as well. Mars is kind of like a battleground for all races. There's Cabal, there's Hive, there's Vex. There might even be Fallen there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's like as far as Vex are concerned, I don't really know when they entered this system because we know Clovis had that one Vex that he was using to build the portal to get to the Vex quote unquote homeworld,
Yep.
to then reverse engineer that stuff to help his exo program.
Yeah. So I I don't know that Venus is central to the Vex, but I think that is where humanity first encountered them in any significant way.
Okay.
Therefore, that's where they started really doing studies on them. They didn't seem to come to Mars until after the collapse,
Yep.
because Mars was a metropolis prior to the collapse, and I
Yep.
feel like it
Had the
would have been
Clovis
a
Bray
big deal
facility
if they
there
showed
and all
up
that
there.
stuff.
Yeah. And I don't think there was a human presence on Mercury at all,
No,
even during the Golden Age.
I don't think so either. I think the first people to go there was the cult of Osiris.
So, yeah, but for all intents and purposes, during the Golden Age at least, the Vex were discovered on Venus, and being studied by Ishtar Academy. Um, and during the study of this Vex that they designated again Subject 12, Chioma discovered that the Vex was running a simulation of the research team. It was studying the studiers, essentially. The
Like
scary
Inception
thing,
style, like they had their own little like
yeah,
simulation running of the researchers studying themselves. Oh, that's freaky.
that's the thing. This simulation was perfect. It was 100% accurate to the point where Chioma couldn't discern whether she was the real Chioma observing the simulation or if she herself was a simulation, because the observed Vex's
Dude,
capabilities were were perfection. Like there was no difference between reality
that is
and
freaky.
simulated.
That is super
Uh
freaky.
yes, it's kind of crazy. It's that concept of, people varying degrees of jokingly will say, that real life is just a simulation. They'll find, a quote unquote glitch in the matrix when two people look similar, or, stuff like that. Uh, but this is that concept, but having concrete proof of it being possible in front of you.
How do you even like I don't know. That's freaky. I don't like. How would you even like know like you're the simulation and I'm the real thing, or like that's freaky.
Yeah. So they determined that the way to find out if they themselves were simulated or the true reality was to bring a third party into the equation that could observe them, that is beyond the comprehension of this Vex. And that third party was a war mind.
Ah, okay.
So their theory was the Vex cannot simulate the complexity of a war mind, in the small amount of time that the Vex has been here to observe us. If the war mind can perceive us, then we are the real ones, and all other versions of us are copies, are simulations.
Pretty sound logic. I like it.
Yeah. Uh, so by doing this, they were able to determine, okay, we are the real copies. We are the real versions. And they discovered 227 perfectly simulated copies of themselves inside this Vex.
Holy shit. So it wasn't just like one or two. We're talking
No.
200. What the hell?
So 227 quote unquote fake Maya Sundareshes and fake Chiomas and fake Dr. Shims and so on and so
Holy
forth.
shit.
And these copies of themselves, again, are perfect. They have the
Yeah.
same thought patterns, they have the same interests, they have the same desires. And these copies all decided, rather than have the simulation be ended, and rather them try to, I guess, export them somehow into reality. These copies said, "All right, we know your research. We know everything you know, and we're in the Vex network. And now that we are aware that we are in the Vex network because we're created here, we can investigate it." And so,
That's that. Okay, hold on a sec. The copies after determining that they were copies, decided that since they were in the Vex network, they are just gonna like poke around.
yeah, they're just going to go spelunking.
Holy shit. Okay.
I mean, all of these copies are still, they have the exact same minds
Yeah.
as Vex researchers. And so in some ways it's like,
Why
what
wouldn't
better
you?
way to get
Yeah.
more info, you
Exactly.
know?
No, I'm following. That's just mind blowing to me that like the copies have I don't want to say gained sentience, but they they already have sentience because they're being simulated by a Vex. And since they're so
Yes.
perfect, they do have that level of sentience to say, I am a copy of the real thing, but I am also a researcher. Let me do my research thing and investigate this area that I'm in now and see if I can learn more about it and report back to the originals.
Yep.
That's
So
super cool.
these 227 different copies of this research team spread throughout the Vex network. And the study of Subject 12 was shuttered. These copies are off in the network now. They're no longer tied to this one local unit. So we're gonna, you know, make sure this unit can't do this again. We're
I was gonna
gonna
say, did they like? I'm assuming they don't like shut them down. Like, I don't know that you could shut a Vex down because
No, I don't think so. I think
you could
it's
separate
just,
the radial area from the robot. But
yeah. I'm not sure exactly what process they went through. Um, but they more or less decided that it's too dangerous to continue study on this. We now have, we will be fed information about the Vex from the Vex network at some point in the future.
perfect.
So now we fast forward 40 years,
It's not a lot of
because
time in Destiny years.
not a lot of time in Destiny years, during the Golden Age especially, where human lifespan was like 300. 300 years plus was the normal lifespan. So 40 years later, Maya Sundaresh pops up again as part of a new research team, this time on Earth. Uh, this research is overseen by a war mine and locked down in an isolated area. And this team is again conducting experiments with a device that is human built in mimicry of the Vex gateway systems that were discovered on Ishtar.
Okay.
This device is referred to as a mind forking device. And what it did was it showed whoever was using the device visions of all the possible timelines that that person had in front of them, potentially had in front of them.
It's essentially what the Vex do with their simulations. Like they're trying
Yeah.
to run those simulations to run as many possibilities to get to the end point to then reverse engineer that end point back to the beginning and say, okay, this is the route we need to take to get to the ultimate goal, whatever that would be.
Yes. This was humanity's attempt to mimic that, uh but having that information shown to a human being instead of like trying to run it as like a computer calculation.
Sure.
Um
Seems
Now,
like a perfectly good idea. Not.
right, sure, that's fine.
No.
Uh Now the experiments proved to be very taxing both emotionally and physically on the people that underwent use of this device. Um and sometimes the visions were true and sometimes the visions were very false. And so it was a very unreliable thing. It was causing issues with the research team on like a physical and psychological level. Maya determined that this device was not worth the risk of using it, and she quit the program. Now, something that's worth noting here is that even after Maya quit, experimentation with it continued. And later, this device was discovered and became the main pillar of the Future War Cult.
Oh.
Future War Cult continued to experiment with the device, and this is how members of the Future War Cult, including Lakshmi, saw visions of the future, and that's how they, claim to have knowledge of like the Red War. They saw visions of the Red War before the Red War happened, and you know that's one of the big things during season of the Splicer when the Elixni were in the city and Lakshmi was causing all that kind of upheaval. She was saying that Future War Cult had seen visions via this device of the Elixni, being the end of the city essentially.
I want to say those visions are written out on the submachine gun
So
for that
yes, they
season.
are. Some of
Yep.
them are at least.
Yep. I don't remember the name of the gun, but I remember you pointing that out to me.
Yeah. So, but Maya abandoned that project, said this isn't worth it, and she left and quit that program. Um, and then her next endeavor was a joint effort between the Ishtar Collective and the Clovis Bray Corporation in the development of Sotera, the AI that we talked about in the Spire of the Watcher episode. Who is to help kind of colonization and determine travel vectors for outer colonization outside of the soul system. Um, and I recently learned this. The reason that Maya was a part of that was that Sotera was actually a Vex derived AI.
Interesting.
She designed it using a combination of Warmind schematics or Warmind development notes, along with her own notes about how the Vex mines worked, and that's
Sure.
how she helped create Sotera. Um, so that brings us to around the collapse.
Because
Uh,
after that time, she quit. I love
yeah,
that entry. She tells Clovis Bray to go fuck himself, and it's so
yeah,
awesome, awesome. Because Clovis Bray splintered it out and locked it down when she told him not to include that protocol with this. Presumably because I didn't realize that it was part Vex research. So that makes more sense now why she was so pissed at him for doing that. Because
yep,
that's 90% her research there. Like, well, I guess it's 50-50, like half Warmind, half
still,
Vex.
yeah,
But yeah, to then lock it down, she's just like, I'm not working with you anymore, you egotistical piece of shit. Like, I'm out of here. Because then, like, as far as like between there and the collapse, Maya Sundaresh is referenced a lot, and we talk about this a bunch in our Clovis Bray episodes, as working for Clovis Bray again at his facility in
mm-hmm.
Europa. We learned this that whole time it's not even really her; it's a fake her. It's a Vex simulated her. That there's been no record of her even working there. Like it's all in Clovis's Bray head because the Vex has infected him and all that shit. So yeah, but that whole time she's gone back to the Ishtar Collective, I'm assuming, and just worked there.
Mm-hmm.
Still working on Vex research up until the collapse, right?
Yeah. So, and it's very possible that that version of her that interacted with Clovis was maybe a one of those 227 copies
Oh shit!
that was in the Vex network that maybe got corrupted at some point, or the Vex took
Oh
control of at some
shit,
point.
dude, I
So,
like that theory.
yeah. But yeah, so she continued just research with the Ishtar until the collapse. And during the collapse, Maya was aboard the Exodus Indigo colony ship, um, along with Chioma and other members of what is called the Hyperion research team, which was a Ishtar outpost. Uh, and that kind of leads us into the logs. So the things to take away from this: Maya very heavily well versed in information around the Vex, a little bit about AI, and a little bit about Vex interfacing with the human mind via that mind forking device that she worked on for a little bit. So those are the big takeaways. And then we get into these logs. All of the logs, as we said before, are from the perspective of Chioma Essie, kind of showing the what has been going on, um, just before and then during the collapse, and then further into Neomuna. So the first one of those goes like this: Chioma Essie, personal log, incidental. Maya arrived yesterday with the Exodus Indigo. I should be relieved, but in light of the current situation, I don't feel much of anything. We're presently en route from Hyperion to the terraformed surface of Neptune. I'm scared. So scared. We don't even know what we've lost. Comms are dead. It's just silence everywhere. We might be all that's left. Maya was right about everything. The cult's the end. How we'll survive. I hate this. That's the end of that log. Nimbus chimes in here saying Chioma Essie was one of the founders of Neomuna. There's a part of the city named after her. Osiris responding, I knew of Chioma Essie and her wife Maya Sundaresh. They were Ishtar Collective researchers on Venus during the Golden Age. And then they talk about how there's more logs. So this is, Chioma's on Hyperion, is being picked up by Maya. It seems at this point the collapse is kind of started. They're losing they've
Yeah.
lost contact with everybody.
So real quick, is Hyperion that Ishtar orbital station above Neomuna?
Let me check. I don't believe it's the one above Neomuna.
Okay. I was curious. I don't know that they ever named the one up above it, but in my mind, like that, I feel like that is an Ishtar outpost. And I mean, that would make sense if that's where she's chilling right above Neomuna. Because that's the thing, too, is that Neptune was not terraformed by the Traveler. Neptune is being terraformed by us humans.
Right. Yeah, so Hyperion is an outpost that is stationed on a moon of Saturn by the same
Okay.
name.
Okay. Okay. That makes, well, okay. Yeah, well, that would make more sense if it's on a moon named Hyperion.
Yep.
Okay, so kind of setting the stage here. Collapse is happening. Similar things that are happening right now. The Traveler is hauling ass past Titan. Titan's getting ripped apart because of this rapid movement from the Traveler moving past it from Io to get back to the Earth. Mara's ship, the Exodus Green.
Yes.
Yes, the Wei Ling. Fuck. I say that one
It's
for
been a
me.
minute. I think it's the Lang
Lang.
Yi Wei,
Yes, there we go. Named after
something
the
like that.
captain. Is sitting out in space. She's about to boop and create her own little pocket universe. So yeah, there's a lot of events that are happening right now, and in the midst of all of it, this colony ship with Maya is picking up her wife, and they're gonna head to Neomuna. Hope they all think that they're the last of humanity. Like they really do
Yeah.
truly think like this is it. They've lost comms with everything. Darkness is closing in. Um, Again, from the bad guy's point of view, the Witness is here. The pyramid ships are here. Nezarek is here. Savathun is here. Um, it's all hell is broken loose in the soul system.
Yes. And now one thing I want to point out here that I think is interesting is that Chioma says Maya was right about everything. the cult, the end, how we'll survive. I
Ooh,
almost wonder if the reason why Maya took such an abrupt leave from the mind forking, uh, project was maybe she got a vision of the collapse
maybe.
and decided like it's not worth risking this vision being false. I need to start preparing
Yeah.
now to survive it.
Look at how the AI handled the incoming signal too. Like if we think back to the what we covered in the Spire stuff, where
Mm-hmm.
the AI asked Rasputin like, "Hey, what's going on?" And Rasputin reports back like, "Yeah, go ahead and send that colony ship out because shit's gonna hit the fan."
Yeah.
Well, if an AI has already determined that, if a war mind and an AI have already determined that, there's from Maya Sundaresh's point of view of looking into this machine and looking into these different futures, she as a researcher, I would think, would start trying to pick apart and go, okay, well, this seems the most plausible. This seems not very plausible. Let's start creating contingencies for each one of these outcomes, both from most plausible to least plausible, and work through that list that way. So it seems like this was like what you said, where her wife says, Maya was right about all of this. Then that's now what the cult. What cult is she talking about?
I'm a little unclear on that. I don't know if she's referencing the the cult that kind of forms around this mind forking device even before future war cult was a thing.
Okay.
People had begun to be affected by it in ways where they were turning to superstition and rituals as a way of like understanding the visions they were seeing from the device.
What about what? Because the only three cults that I can think of are Cult of Osiris, Future War Cult, and the Cult of Nezarec.
It could be in reference to Nezarec. They would have been active around this time.
Right.
So that's a possibility for sure.
Okay.
Uh, but
Okay.
unfortunately, we don't get any more information than just
Sure.
the cult.
Sure.
So, um, but yeah, so this isn't in the log, but just to fill in some of the gaps here, they are on the Exodus Indigo, leaving Hyperion, and in flight, the ship is attacked by an unknown entity, um, which left a spear embedded in the hull of the ship, which is the same spear that we now have as an exotic glaive called the Winter's Bite. Um, but it was embedded in the hull of the ship before whatever this entity that was wielding it was blasted away by the ship's defense cannons.
Holy shit.
Uh,
Presumably some. Well, no, it couldn't have been a tormentor because that's a
they
byproduct
didn't
of.
exist.
Yeah, that's a byproduct of oh god, Shadow Legion and
Yeah,
Nezarec stuff.
and
So
Nezarec. Yeah.
interesting.
So it could have been a lot of things. Who
But a
knows?
but a glaive wielder
But a glaive wielder,
should have been a disciple.
I would think all the ones we've met so far have been.
Okay.
So it could have been an unknown disciple
A
that
really
just got
shitty one that
blasted
got
into
blown the
space.
fuck away. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, maybe.
Maybe.
Um, but so yeah, but they were attacked. So their location was clearly known by the forces of darkness, and they were actively under attack. Maya determined that that spear that was sticking out of the hull could be had properties that would allow them to use it like a signal boosting antenna, and they used it to project a Vex distress signal from the ship to make it seem as if they were a Vexed construct, not a human ship.
I mean, that's one
Uh,
way to try to fight the darkness. I mean, like
yep.
we saw a similar tactic with Mara's ship. They said, "Hey, we're not part of humanity. We're trying to leave the system. We don't want to be part of this fight. Please don't accept us as part of humanity." So it really was kind of like every man for himself
Mm-hmm.
once that collapse started to happen.
So they used this distress signal, which they were bouncing that signal off of themselves from Neptune. Like they saw that distress signal coming out of Neptune. Their ship was kind of like, for for lack of a better term, absorbing the broadcast and then rebroadcasting it through this antenna, while they descended to Neptune as the only place that appeared, safe
Sure.
ish for the time. Um,
Giant gas giant. Yeah, that seems pretty safe to hide in that.
right, yeah, yeah. Uh, but had been terraformed because they had mentioned in the first log that the terraformed surface of Neptune. So there had already been some work to make that area habitable. So that leads us into the next log. So this one goes Chioma Essie Research Log, The Veil. I don't even know where to start. When we landed on Neptune, there was something waiting for us. An alien structure. It's an electromagnetic anomaly. No mass, but a tangible surface area. It's like a thesis statement to the Van Neumann-Wigner hypothesis. It's definitely paracausal. Like the Traveler, Maya calls it the Veil. She says she heard the name in a whisper when she looked at it. And when I asked her who whispered, she said it was her own voice. I still haven't had time to process that. Everyone on the initial survey team died. The minute they touched the object, they entered a state of brain death. All of them. To make it worse, the EM radiation emitting from the veil is causing psychological distress in the exos that came with us. They've all described moments of intense, hallucinogenic reverie. Some of them went silent and rigid and just stopped. Maya called it billboarding, something from the early days of Clovis Bray's ExoMind project. She still doesn't seem afraid or surprised. She's convinced this thing, in her own words, she says, it'll be our salvation. And then there's a discussion between Osiris and Nimbus again. So Osiris says, fascinating. This corroborates what Nezarak said, that the veil survived Savathun's escapade. This must have been the root of Savathun's betrayal, stalling the witnesses' plan to buy time to counter it. Nimbus, so she stole the veil from Nezarak? Osiris, and killed him in doing so. It explains what happened to the lunar pyramid, why it's dormant. And what about the rest of this? What happened to the exos? Is that what happened to all of them? I have some theories, but it's too early. Regardless, it sounds like the veil had an ill effect on Dr. Sundaresh. We must be cautious. Hopefully, the next log will shed more light on this enigma. And that's the end of that log.
So a couple of takeaways. Number one, if you
Yep.
see a giant alien structure, don't touch it.
Don't touch it. Yeah.
You will die or go brain dead. Yeah. So a key thing here is really Maya's dialogue, or what Shiomi says. Maya says. One, she says that Maya calls it the veil because something whispered to her and
Yes.
told her it was that, and that same thing told her that it was her salvation.
Yes.
That's super darkness stuff. And in my mind, the witness? But now
Yeah.
I'm kind of questioning that.
So we are going to come back to this log in particular
Okay.
because it has a lot of the theories that we're going to talk about towards the second half of our episode are going to hinge from this log in particular.
Okay. So
Uh,
I'll keep that little
yeah.
side thing in my back pocket and forget about it in 5 seconds when you read the next log, and then get reminded in 2 hours. Yeah. So Veil's here. We knew, and Osiris mentions it
Yep.
here. We knew that Savathun had stolen it from Nezarec, killed Nezarec. We learned all this through the Root of Nightmares raid, that she stole the veil from Nezarec, who's presumably its guarder or its guardian, or was keeping it safe, and then hid it on Neomuna after killing Nezarec. We still don't really have a full understanding of what the hell it is, though. Again, the only thing I have is like a visualization of it. Of it looks like that root system forms a sphere that looks like it should be the size of a traveler. I still think of the veil as like a focusing lens, but like the fact that it's whispering to her, and it's bricking the exos. Like the fact that it's billboarding them, it's that idea of like clarity, right?
Yeah.
Clovis came up with that equation of like clarity introduced to entity A will create entity B, but entity B cannot ever become entity A ever again, because even if you reintroduce clarity to it or try to take clarity away from it, entity B now becomes entity C, and it just keeps changing. It never reverts back. Whereas like water, you can break it down into hydrogen and oxygen and say, here's my two parts of it, and then you can recombine them and say, now I've got water. So yeah, so the fact that it's bricking these exos makes me further. I do truly think that the veil is darkness. Like the
Yeah.
fact that the witness uses our ghost to like talk to it and shit. Like the veil to me is, I I'm still thinking like darkness the tool.
Yes.
I don't think it's darkness the entity, or darkness any. It's just darkness the tool. The same shit that we use to access strand and stasis.
Yeah. No, I don't. I think it's a pretty solid fact that the veil is dark energy.
Which that kind of means something. Like the fact that it is dark energy, it it it's consciousness versus
Well,
versus versus the traveler that's physicalness. I guess, is that a
right.
word? Is
It's.
that,
I mean, I know what you mean.
you know what I mean, right? Like
Yeah.
the travelers, the light's abilities are very physical properties of this universe being
Yep.
manipulated in a way, whereas the darkness subclasses, I guess, anytime we reference darkness abilities,
Yeah.
they're all about a feeling, an emotion, something
Yeah.
something tied to consciousness.
Yep. They're all a mental a mental theme or a mental idea
Yeah,
or thought or feeling. And this is referenced very loosely. Chioma calls the veil a thesis statement to the Van Neumann-Wigner hypothesis.
please tell me you looked
Uh,
that up.
of course I did.
God damn
Um,
it.
Now, I am not going to pretend I have anywhere near the knowledge to try and truly explain
I was gonna
what
say,
the von Neumann-Wigner interpretation is.
is this going into
Uh,
like theoretical physics and shit?
this is going into the theory of quantum physics.
Oh God.
Um,
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready, Myth.
so we're not going to get too far into the weeds here, but for those that maybe on the off chance someone out there has a working knowledge of quantum physics, uh, the von Neumann-Wigner interpretation is also called the consciousness causes collapse theory.
Okay.
Uh, it is an interpretation of quantum mechanics in which a conscious observer is required for the process of the quantum entanglement to happen.
Okay. I've followed all of that. I was
Good.
really expecting like out in the weeds, but I understand the concept of quantum entanglement. So you take two particles and you wiggle one on this side of the universe. If it is quantum entangled with another particle on the opposite side of the universe, it'll wiggle at the same frequency and speed and all that stuff, because they are linked, for lack of a better term. And if So to me, this is like you have to have an observer for that to be a thing, for that to actively happen. Otherwise, you can't specifically say that those two particles are quantumly entangled if nobody observed it.
Yes. Yes. Now the seemingly, and again, this is my very layman's understanding. Seemingly, the big reason why this is a specific interpretation that is debated is that this interpretation is stating that that observer has to be a conscious observer. It cannot be a
Oh, okay.
mechanical observer.
Gotcha. Okay.
Uh, so that's essentially what that is that the veil is this thesis statement to consciousness needs to observe quantum mechanics for those mechanics to happen.
I like it. Okay. I'm 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 following. I'm
So,
following more than I thought I was going to, but yeah, okay.
well, good because that Wikipedia page is very, very long, and I read like the first two sentences. So,
So many words had like 14 syllables in it. And you were just like, I'm not touching that. I can't
yeah,
do that.
no, no. When the Wikipedia references start linking to like academic journals, like no, I'm just it's not happening.
Nope.
But yeah. So needless to say, they land. The veil is there. People touch it and die. The exos kind of go brain dead. And Maya doesn't seem surprised by any of it.
That's
Um,
crazy. That's probably the craziest part of the whole thing.
yeah. And as Osiris says, the veil would have just recently been stolen from Nezarec by Savathun and placed on Neptune. Uh, Probably, you know, I guess we don't know time wise, but not too soon before Maya and Chioma and their crew arrived here.
Yeah. So both entities arrive here a relatively the same time. Vale gets here probably a little bit before. Well, not probably. Vale does get here a
Did
little bit
yeah.
before Maya gets here, and now the two are linked for all eternity. It
Yep.
seems.
So this kind of tells us that this is probably getting close to the end of the collapse, or at least, you know, and I suppose the main conflict of the collapse may have only been a day or two. You know, like
Oh,
it.
sure.
It probably didn't take all that long for the
When,
hive and
when,
whomever to come in and just raise
yeah,
everything.
yeah. The traveler and humanity were pretty unprepared for it.
Yeah. So, needless to say, they're on Neptune. They've discovered the veil, and then we have the next log, which talks about kind of what are they going to do now. So this log goes like this: Chioma Essie, research log, the veil, number 2. We shouldn't settle here. It's a mistake. But Maya is insistent that we have to build our long-term shelters near the veil. We're almost done constructing an enclosure around it. Once the field emitters are up, we should at least be safe from its radiation. The Siva tech Maya had on the Exodus was a lifesaver, not only for building that enclosure, but shelters, tools. We'd be dead without it. But it still wasn't fast enough. The last exo in our group succumbed to brain death yesterday. Maya's quarantined the bodies for study. She says our next step should be finding a way to draw power from the veil so we're self sufficient. I'm insisting on turbines instead. But she doesn't think that's good enough. Not for as long term as this might be. Which, I guess, but I can't shake this feeling like we're making a terrible mistake. And then it goes over to Nimbus and Osiris. I'm not getting a good vibe from this. Quinn says that these records contradict some of her own, but there's a ton of references to Maya Sundaresh in our archives that are redacted. I, I'm worried. What if everything we've been told our whole lives, what if it was all a lie? And Osiris responds, Don't despair yet, young friend. The truth may be somewhere between these logs and what you've been told in the past. In my experience, history can be contradictory. Regardless, we won't know until we decrypt more of these logs. And that's the end of this log.
So Chiyomi is very concerned, obviously,
Yes,
as she should be.
I would say
Exos,
so, yeah.
Exos are bricking left and right, and they're just like Maya's just like, it's fine. Um, we do get one confirmation here, though. Siva was on the Exodus ship.
Yep.
And to me, that seems to say that Siva is what evolved into eventually the Quicksilver goo, the
Yes.
same goo that is used in the Quicksilver gun, and the little shell. I can't remember the little ghost name. I keep
I
on
think it's
calling him
called
Tiki.
Quicksilver.
Yeah, the Quicksilver stuff is, but the ghost that discovers it, I can't remember the ghost's name.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
Tiki
I
or
don't.
something. Terry,
I
I
think
don't.
yeah, I
I'm
don't
bad with
recall
names.
exactly.
The one that
It
was
was
the
in
one that was
it was in our Bray, our
yeah
Elsie Bray.
yeah the one that was messing around with Elsie and helped her discover her past or
Yeah.
discover her future.
A
Both.
little bit of both. Yeah.
Her future past. Yeah. So Siva is the direct grandfather of, or great 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 grandfather of the Quicksilver stuff.
yeah, and presumably probably some of the tech that is used to create the Cloud Striders and the Cloud Strider weapons.
Yep.
Uh and by this telling probably created at least the foundation of the entire city in
Yeah.
some way.
I mean, the entire containment area for the Veil to like
Yep.
stop killing people.
Yep. So, but yeah, again, just this through line of Maya's like she doesn't want to leave the Veil. She's
That's the freaky part. Like she is so ingrained in this thing.
so and Shioma is pretty convinced this is not going to end well.
I wonder if that's like what the first people did with like uranium, right? Like enriched uranium. People started touching it and dying, and everyone's like, huh, maybe we shouldn't have this shit. And everyone's like, nah,
Yeah.
let's build reactors and power sources and bombs out of it. That'd be great, wouldn't it? And they're like, bombs? Did you say No, no, no. I meant reactors and power sources and bombs. Because that would work, right? Like you could make a reactor out of this and bombs.
Something
And
tells me the discussion did not exactly go like that.
I don't think it did. I'm 100% certain that it went bombs first and reactors and power later. Any type of science that gets like advanced enough to be used for anything always gets militarized first and then gets put into other applications.
Unfortunately, that does seem to be the trend.
It does.
But yeah, so they're building long-term settlements here. Maya's determined to use this thing as as the power source. And then we get into the next log, which goes like this. Chioma Essie, research log, the Vex. 6 weeks ago, our settlement came under attack by an intrusion of Vex forces. It was a test of our defenses for a larger incursion. Yesterday, scouts discovered temporarily realigned architecture just outside the stronghold limits. The Vex had retroactively inserted themselves into Neptune's history, just like they did on Venus. But unlike Venus, something stopped them short of our habitat. They had to fight their way in. I think it's the Veil. Something about the paracausal nature of the Veil is preventing their temporal excursions. But the Vex aren't giving up. They did something to Neptune's magnetic field, wove a simulation into it, a screen to isolate us. It's a double-edged sword. The Vex screen hides us from the outside world, from whatever has happened. So we're safe, but we're also stuck with the Vex. Thankfully, they're slow to react, and it's given us time to research countermeasures. It's almost our anniversary. I should do something for Maya. She'll forget. She's always so busy. Computer, prepare food synthesis. File Chioma data, night 6. Oh, and add a bottle of port, too. And that's where this log cuts off. And we get this little bit between Nimbus and Osiris. Nimbus asking, Osiris, are you all right? And Osiris saying, Yes, I'm fine. I just, saw shadows. My choices. Saint Dr. Sundaresh and I walked very similar paths of obsession, it seems. Nevertheless, it appears that Neomuna's history is deeply tied to the Vex. Hopefully, the next decryption will shed more light on this. And that's the end of that log.
Well, at least I know where my theory of them reinserting themselves into the past came from.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the thing then. Like the Vex can just retroactively insert themselves into the past of a place? That's still freaky to me. Like I still don't fully understand Vex. And again, we'll call it time travel, but it's not time travel. It's the fact that they exist at all times simultaneously is the way I fully understood it. But maybe that's wrong. Maybe they do time travel. But then like the Drifter's like, well, if the Vex time travel, they would have already beaten us by now.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough without like really digging into the research of how the Vex work, but it does seem to be an established fact, at least according to Chioma. And again, Chioma was one of the researchers of the Vex.
Yep.
That they have the ability to retroactively insert themselves into the history of a location.
That's mind blowing. But that's also what's
pretty crazy.
But that is what's also kind of saving Neomuna from darkness, because they can't get a signal out, but they also can't get signals in. So they're that's part of the reason why we never like even war minds and stuff didn't know about this place. I mean, there's a little bit more to it later on. We'll get to that point. But the main reason why like nobody could find this place and nobody could do anything with this is that it was fully hidden from the rest of the world because of the Vex, or for the rest of the universe because of the Vex.
Yep. Yeah, there was no way to find it because the Vex were essentially projecting a simulation of there's nothing here.
Yep.
Don't worry about
it. Yep. But even they're having a hard time getting the Vex I'm talking about. They're having a hard time getting to the Veil and to the city because of the Veil. Like it's that powerful. Like it's the Vex and paracausality just don't mix. That's the one thing that the Vex just it doesn't mesh with their systems. And anytime it has been introduced to them, like we've seen in the Black Garden, it completely changes the Vex's programming and they start worshiping it. Because either A, they don't understand it and therefore it should be worshipped, or because it's actively causing them to worship it, like forcing them into a worship state.
Yeah, and so I wonder if that's why we haven't seen the Vex on Earth, is because the Traveler is having the same effect for the planet.
Dude, I like that theory. Because we've seen the Vex everywhere else, and there's nothing stopping them from anywhere else. So maybe the Vex have done that everywhere else. They've retroactively inserted themselves into bits of history that they deem, hey, this is where we need to be at this point in time to exist permanently. Yeah. Dude, I like that theory. I like that theory a lot.
That would track for me. And the only time the Vex have ever been on Earth is when Lakshmi
opened a goddamn portal to them.
Yeah, like essentially opened a door for them, and like, yep, right here,
right there. We're all right here.
And even then, that wasn't them inserting themselves into the history. That was them, invading present day.
Yep. Which
Uh,
that's where I'm curious too. I'm curious if there has to be a certain point in time where they have to physically get to a location to then be able to retroactively insert themselves into the past.
that could be. Yeah. Yeah. So, regardless, this gives us a little bit of information about why Neomuna has been undiscovered and at the very least was undetected by the fleets of the Witness. Um, because the Vex were kind of making that not possible as they were
And
trying to also break into their stronghold.
well, and by proxy, the veil is now hidden from the universe.
Right. Yeah.
And so that kind of explains why the witness dropped his contact lens and was like, I can't fucking find it, guys. I don't know where the shit it was here 5 minutes ago, and it's not here now. It grew legs and walked away. You just meant like Papa Witness, like yelling at all the little kids, like, will you
Yeah.
just find my damn tools? Just I dropped it right, I set it down right here, and now it's gone. What the hell?
Yeah. Nezarek, I gave it to you.
You
What did
had
you
it.
do with it?
You had it in your ship. I don't know, man. Savathun was here, and oh shit, I'm dead. God damn it! All my kids
I
just
have this
killed each other.
I have this wonderful image of the Witness being like some daycare, running some daycare. There's these little chibi versions of Nezarek and Savathun running around.
I fucking love it. I love it. And he's like, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed.
Yeah. Oh God. God.
I love it. I love the shit we
someone
come
needs to
up with.
animate that.
It's so good. Little chibi Savathun, little chibi Nezarek, little chibi Oryx, little chibi Zebu Arath, just like,
Yep.
hey, we're gonna go play Darkness. Okay, kids, you stay where I can see you, and I can see everything in the universe. So don't fall out. Don't go into the ascendant plane. You get out of the Oryx. Get out of the ascendant plane right now. Get out of the ascendant plane right now, young man. If I have to come over there.
This needs a web series.
This is officially like become an entity now. We're getting T-shirts and shit or something. I don't know. Just the Witness shaking his finger. You get out of the ascendant plane, young man. You get out of there right now.
Oh, all right. Well, with
that
that
tangented too fast.
that wonderful little idea cemented in history now.
I love it.
We're gonna move on to the next research log. And this one goes like this. Chioma Essie, research log, Exos. Maya and I have built a working theory around the deaths of our Exo crewmates after their exposure to the Veil. According to Maya, Exo minds contain a combination of Vex radiolaria and something else known as clarity. Radiolaria are alien microorganisms living within a hive mind state, or, I suppose more accurately, a community. Clarity is, Maya described it as a paracausal power derived from an alien artifact, something Braytech had kept secret, something Maya thinks the Veil and this artifact are related, that the paracausal force from the Veil overloaded their exo minds, unraveled them. It's like taking a powerful magnet to an archaic magnetic storage device. Full erasure. But Maya, she thinks we can reverse engineer this phenomenon, use it to write data to a clarity infused object, fabricate consciousness. Scientifically, the process seems sound, but morally. Maya keeps saying that we're past the point of morality. She said that. She's convinced that our survival hinges on mastery of the veil. It's like she's the one unraveling. I feel like I'm losing her. But every time I try and push, I feel her move a little further away. I don't know if I can lose anything else. How much more can any of us lose before there's nothing left. And then a little conversation between Osiris and Nimbus. Osiris starting, saying, Nimbus, how much do you know about the Cloud Strider's creation? The technology that's used? Nimbus responding, You don't think I make no assertions yet, but I worry that your neon lit city may have darker roots than either of us knew. And that's the end of that log.
Honestly, not a whole lot to unpack here. Like the clarity stuff, like we talked about that a bunch with our Clovis Bray stuff, and yeah, it definitely seems like this thing is bricking these exos. Honestly, it's weird. It's like it's almost like it is doing the exact opposite of what Clovis Bray thought of clarity. Of like clarity introduced to A creates B, and now B can never become A. But it almost seems like it is bricking them back to the point of A. You know, like it's breaking
Yeah.
them down into just being radiolaria and a metal frame with
Well,
no consciousness.
or I suppose the alternative is that, you know, A plus clarity equals B, and then B plus more clarity equals like D. You know,
Oh,
like
sure.
maybe it's turning it into something different that just doesn't have the capacity to be an exomind.
Oh, okay, sure.
Um,
Like beyond consciousness.
yeah,
Oh, there's
yeah,
an idea. Do you think it's like absorbing the consciousness from the exos?
that would be a possibility. I mean, I don't think we have any way to confirm that, but
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if that were the case.
That's an
Um,
interesting thought. If because the exos had consciousness before coming in contact with this, and then after coming
right.
in contact with this, no longer have consciousness because it they describe it as a brain death, and the only thing that they have any type of reference to is that billboarding process where they essentially they just brick.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, like maybe it's absorbing their consciousness, maybe it's deleting their consciousness. Don't know.
Now we have, and this is going to become a bigger thing later on, but we have a very important line in this one.
Ooh,
Um,
as
Maya,
important as the salvation thing.
uh, maybe a little less important than that.
Okay.
But still very in two, I guess, two big lines. One of which explains a log later on, and another which I think we can have some fun theorizing about. So the first, Maya thinks she can reverse engineer this phenomenon, use it to write data to a clarity infused object, fabricate consciousness.
I like that idea. Sounds crazy, but I like it.
So remember that, and I'll come back and point it out when we get to a log later on about her potentially succeeding at doing just that.
Okay.
Now, the other thing that I find very interesting, Maya says exominds contain a combination of Vex radiolaria and something known as clarity. Clarity is a paracausal power derived from an alien artifact. All of that is information that Maya told Chioma.
Maya wouldn't have known that.
Exactly.
The only Maya that would have known that would have been the Maya Vex thing that was working with Clovis Bray.
That
Holy
literally
shit.
tortured Clovis to get
Holy
information about
shit.
clarity.
Holy sh. Is this the real Maya?
We don't know.
Dude. Is that why
And
she
with
used a Vex symbol to bounce it? Like she used it as a Vex just. Dude. What if
the
this
we
hasn't been the real Maya the entire time? What if this has been a
yeah,
Vex simulation of Maya? Because there's no
with
war mind to say, hey, I can
no,
observe you and you're real. Dude, if this has been a Vex Maya this entire time, That's a bad thing for Neomuna as a whole.
It's a very bad thing. Now, what it does bring up is if this was a Vex Maya or Vex controlled Maya, why did she never let the
The other
Vex
Vex in.
in?
Maybe the exposure to clarity like fucked with it, like truly
Maybe,
like created some type of
maybe.
interference or something like that, to where now it's just this simulation acting on its own. Again, thinking back to the idea of that those simulations know they're simulations, and
Right.
they know that they are also researchers, and so like they're trying to create, like, because we know the Vex want this thing, they want the veil. So why wouldn't the Vex do the exact same thing that the researchers do and say, oh, well, we've got a person on the inside, let her do her thing?
Yeah,
Dude,
that's very
this is the
possible.
craziest Inceptionist thing ever.
Yeah.
Dude, if that's true, oh my god, dude, that has really big implications. If this Maya is not a real Maya, if this Maya is just a Vex simulated Maya, one of the 200 and I've already forgotten the number, uh,
227.
227 Mayas in existence, that's just that's fucking mind blowing, dude.
Now, the only way that the real Maya would have known is if at some point one of the simulated Mayas had made contact and informed her of the information that, because presumably as soon as the Maya on Europa learned about it, that information is now in the Vex network and known
Oh,
by the
sure, sure,
Vex
sure,
network.
and therefore could be reported back to her by
So
through the Vex network. Yeah, no,
right. So there
I
there
got
is
you.
a possibility that she made contact with one of her simulated selves and they informed her of this information. But I feel like that is one of those real
I don't think so.
slim
I think
thing,
the
like, yeah.
I think the Vex that was on Europa, that was the Maya Sundaresh Vex, was killed when it tried to like dissect Clovis on the table, and Elsie jumped in and kicked its butt.
Yeah, but the information it gained would have been in
Oh,
the
would have
Vex
still been in the
network.
network. I see what you're saying. I see what you're
Yeah.
saying. Therefore, since it's part of the Vex network, it's now common knowledge type thing to anything that has access to the Vex network. The real Maya Sundaresh having access to the Vex network by way of these copies would then have. Okay, yeah, nope, I'm following. I'm following.
So there's two possibilities. Either this is the real Maya and she learned about it from the Vex network and from one of the other copies informing her of that.
I think she's acting
Uh,
crazy enough that she's not. I think
or
she is just a copy.
Yeah, or this is one of the other copies that just inherently has that knowledge because they're plugged into the Vex
Yeah.
network.
Yep. 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 Now, and again, this is completely tangenting, and I'm sorry for this. There's an entry somewhere that I think has to deal with Praedyth, that he looks up at, that like 200 something Praedyths look up at 200 something Maya Sundareshes, and 200 something Maya Sundareshes look back at him. Is that an entry that I'm thinking of? Were they also
Uh,
were these Maya simulations also inserted into the Vault of Glass?
I I can't think of anything off the top of my head. That doesn't mean it's not out there.
Okay.
But I
That's
don't
for some reason
remember
that's why I'm remembering like the
that.
200 something Mayas. That's what in my brain I've remembered the 200 something Mayas from, not these entries that we've been talking about tonight. Um, but yeah, okay. That's sorry, I didn't want to like completely derail this entire episode, but I for some reason that's in my head, that those entities are also in the Vault of Glass working with Praedyth to try to get Praedyth out of the Vault of Glass as well. Like it's like a side story happening to all of this. But again, that would have been, if it was Praedyth, it would have been post collapse and post resing of Guardians, because Praedyth is a Guardian. So that's kind of a fucky thing too. So this would have been like, yeah, this would have been like way future, way future.
So there is, I don't have the entry, but I did find reference of somebody saying that in the Season of the Undying, Praedyth, there were apparently entries that lead us to believe that Praedyth finally escaped his time loop into the Vault of Glass with the help of the 200 copies of the Ishtar team,
Oh shit.
including Sundaresh and Shim.
Okay, so I'm not
Uh,
crazy.
So there's definitely something about that out there. I just don't have it in front of me, and I
Okay.
don't have prior knowledge of it.
Nope,
But
that's fine. It's not
yeah,
important to the Veil story. It just for some reason that popped into my head there for a second, and I was like,
yeah,
is this happening at a real time here? Is this another thing that's happening while all this shit's happening and has to do with Maya Sundaresh? But it's completely unrelated.
yeah. Unrelated to what we're talking about right now, at least.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, so those are the two big takeaways. This idea of writing data to a clarity object to fabricate consciousness, and the question of how does Maya know about clarity?
Is this the real Maya?
Is this the real Maya? So that leads us on to the next research log. Chioma Essie, research log SIVA. SIVA is a nanotech fabrication system intended to be used by Exodus ships to rapidly build necessary resources from base matter. Maya calls it Willa Bray's obsession, without a hint of self awareness. But we both see the potential it poses for the future. Each nanomachine in Siva's design is an independent thinking machine, utilizing a distributed quantum network to coordinate movement, like a mechanical version of Radiolaria. Probably where the design was inspired from, if I'm being honest. But the design can be pushed further. We're, uh, we're looking at ways of incorporating components from disabled Vex and erased exomines. If we can isolate the nanomachines from the radiation that killed the exos, maybe their deaths won't be for nothing. And then the conversation between Nimbus and Osiris, where Nimbus starts by saying, "Wait, does this really mean I'm part Vex?" Osiris, "It's too early to jump to these conclusions, Nimbus. But there does seem to be some connection between the Vex and the Cloud Striders. It may explain why you and others are able to enter the Vex network without the aid of splicers. So does that mean I can time travel? Oh, let's hope not." And that's the end of that log.
See, even they don't know if they can time travel. Like, if your in-game characters don't even understand if shit can time travel, how the hell am I supposed to know? Damn it. That's just.
So
I think that's Bungie's went like little like poke back at the player. Like, are they time traveling? I don't know.
Uh, but yeah, so not a whole lot advancing the Maya Veil story here, but it does again confirm Siva is here and that yes, Chioma and Maya uh evolved Siva, essentially turning it into a mechanical version of Radiolaria.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
definitely what it seems like. So, and I think that's the big implication here is they are trying to reanimate these corpses essentially.
Well, they don't necessarily say that. They're using components from Vex as well as the exo mines.
Okay, okay. I was taking it as like they were using Steve to like reanimate these corpses and then like have these corpses essentially walking around. And I'm going to call them corpses, like as much as they are just
Yeah.
like hunks of metal, they were still consciousnesses at one point in time and
Yep.
have died, gone brain dead, which is kind of terrifying. Like if they're not truly brain dead, like if they're just trapped within their own mind, like now they're this corpse of themselves is walking around doing whatever the hell it wants, and these guys are trapped inside of it. So that's like a super freaky idea that I just came up with and don't like anymore.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but yeah, so but she's still trying to do something, and she's very
Yeah.
much ingrained in this idea of using Vex Tech and Siva to make something work with the Veil.
Yes. Um, and in this case, it's to develop what eventually turns into that silver goo.
We'll
But
call it Quicksilver.
as Nimbus is pointing out, like, yeah, it's all but confirmed they used Vex parts to create Cloud Striders.
Yep.
Like, or at the very least, the material that then goes on to create Cloud Striders.
But so then does this give us kind of like a timestamp?
Um, Not necessarily. We do know that this is pre-Cloud Strider. Um, or at
But
the
like,
very least, Cloud Striders have not been mentioned at all here.
okay,
So we don't exactly know when Cloud Striders first came onto the scene, but I'm guessing this is maybe a couple years after arriving
okay.
on Neptune. Would
I
be
was
my
I was
guess.
curious because again I'm thinking back to that giant archive chamber where like it has all those tombstones essentially of past Cloud Striders, and we know that Cloud Striders only live for 10 years, and um, so yeah, so
Oh
that's
yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Like if they're just now starting to talk about Cloud Striders, I'm trying to remember the five that were like the first five. You know what I'm talking about? The whole quest that you go through
yeah,
to get the spear.
yeah. There was like Blue Jay and yeah, I'd forget exactly what all of them were. I
Sure,
think the first one was literally named Strider, and all the others
that's what I thought. Yeah.
were named after them.
Yep.
Um, but yeah,
Okay.
so it is funny that you bring that up, though. So the uh, someone has counted all of the Cloud Strider
Oh my
memorials.
god.
So there are, according to this count, and this is on Reddit from a user Vortoxic, uh, who took it upon themselves to count every single one in the room, and by their count, it is let's see,
Is he including
400
all
and
the side rooms and stuff with the
yes,
glass panels?
yep. He
Oh my
did the
god.
stairways, the main floor, the northern walls, the rooms on the southern wall.
Holy shit.
So by his count, there's 466 Cloud Striders.
So 4,660 years worth of Cloud Striders.
Now they
Well,
make
they
a
do overlap
point.
a year, don't they?
They make a point. They overlap for longer than that.
Okay.
They're supposed to overlap for 5 years. So
Oh,
that
okay.
way there's a like, at 5 years, that's halfway through the life of the mentor, and then a new trainee starts because the previous mentor would have just ended at that time. So like there's a constant cycle if it's every 5 years,
Yeah, makes
um,
sense.
which would equate to about 2,330 years.
Okay.
Uh,
We
so
compare that to the 16 centuries that Petra mentions.
you know,
Yeah, the collapse might have been a lot longer than we realize.
maybe so, maybe
Or
so,
the Dark
but
Ages, I guess, would be a lot longer. Because the collapse, like I said, was like a blip. Like, boop, collapse is
right.
done. Um, so,
But
yeah.
if their count is accurate, then the logs we're reading now are more than 2,300 years in the past compared to current day Destiny.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's,
So
that's a long time. That's a long time.
it is a long time. We leave the Siva portion. We get back to the Veil proper in the next log, and then specifically the Veil interface. Now, they mentioned this briefly during the Neomuna main missions where you're going through the Veil Containment kind of center, and Nimbus mentions, like, oh, this looks like a really early version of the. Why am I blanking on what they call it?
I don't remember.
Their Matrix, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, Cloud Arc,
Cloud Arc, thank you.
right?
I don't know
Yeah.
why I lost that for a second. But yeah, where he mentions, like, oh, this looks like a Cloud Arc prototype. Well, yes, they called it the Veil interface, and we get to see some of its um, origins in the research log here, which goes like this: Chioma Essie, research log, Veil interface. Maya and I have finally finalized a prototype interface for the Veil. Hopefully, it'll allow our research team to investigate it in detail. The system is designed like an orchestra, with a central conductor directing a symphony of minds to act like a distributed network. The idea came to us by watching how collective networks like SIVA and the Vex operate. The hope is that we can aggregate and parse the vast amounts of psychic data admitted from the Veil and turn it into something intelligible. If we're successful, the interface will provide us with a starting point for any future technological research tied to the Veil. The risks of such integration are high. The estimates mortality rates are. But I don't know what I'm doing. This is wrong. This is so wrong. We shouldn't. All she ever talks about is survival. Think big picture. What about your survival? What about your heart? My heart. I can't keep doing this. I can't. And then it switches over to Osiris, who just says, "Again, I see a shadow of myself in Maya Sundaresh, the man I could have become had I let obsession continue to rule me. I'm worried what the next recording will reveal." And that's the end of that log.
I think this is more telling that Maya Sundaresh here is a Vex than anything. Because the Vex only think of one thing, and that is
Survival.
exist and survive.
Yeah?
That's the only programming they have. And the fact that she is so obsessed with it, I'm telling you, man, this is a Vex Sundaresh.
Maybe so.
I'm more convinced now than I was 5 minutes ago. Also, this whole conductor and chorus thing.
Yep.
The witness?
Yep.
A bunch of
Seems
consciousnesses in a single body? Like with one like main
one
conductor?
person controlling them.
Yeah.
Seems
Yeah.
awfully familiar. Uh yeah, so piggybacking off that, actually, there's another very short log that directly ties into this. So the next log is goes like this. Chioma Essie, research log, Veil interface, supplemental. They're all dead. Chorus, conductor, everyone. It was too much. It swept their minds away like grains of sand on a beach. They're all dead. And Maya called it valuable data points, well springs and rivers or something. What have I done? And then Osiris says, "This killed their entire research team. But it sounds like their lives held no value to Dr. Sundaresh. There's a troubling symmetry with data we've recovered from Titan. Data on the origin of the witness. It too was once multiple people that became conjoined by the way of some sort of ritual with the veil. Perhaps a conductor and a chorus. It is troubling that Dr. Sundaresh seemed to be moving down the same path." And then that's the end of that log.
See, and that's what makes me think that these consciousnesses, even of the exos before, aren't being swept away. I don't think they're being erased. I think they're being absorbed.
I could see that
I
100%.
I think they are being so okay. I'm gonna pause here for a quick like brain theory thing.
Yeah.
Uh if these things are being absorbed by this thing that is darkness darkness the tool, where are they being stored and sent to? And if this is truly the case, does this tool being of darkness tool origin have more to do with the idea of sword logic of simplifying everything down? Does it have more to do with that than what we realize?
Well, I don't think the tool, darkness energy, has any kind of logistical
Right. Like
path that
it's
it
not thinking
follows.
or anything like that. Like
Right.
it's not actively doing something. It's well, I guess it is actively. Well, I guess it's kind of passive.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like saying, "Oh, I need to collect these." Like the veil doesn't
Right.
have this secret like plan in the background going, "Oh, I'm collecting all these consciousnesses. Oh, I got to feed all these consciousness together into this chorus choir thing." Like, da 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 da. Like, uh, but it could just be like an automated process at this point in time,
Yeah.
where like it is just it as a tool is just collecting these things and doesn't know what to do with them now because it's been completely cut off from darkness, the entity, which, and again, we'll get into this later, may or may not be the witness, but
Yeah.
most definitely is not the witness.
We'll see.
We'll
We'll
see.
talk about
We'll
it.
talk about that.
But yeah, now I do like the idea that maybe it's absorbing this conscious energy, this consciousness. I don't know that that necessarily means that it's storing it in its
Right.
original form.
It's just absorbing it
Um,
as a form of energy, right?
right. It what may have been a consciousness at one point has just now become dark energy and
Like
is
fed it.
rejoining,
Yeah.
this well of dark energy. Like,
Yes. I
uh,
like that. I like that a lot. I real that I'm starting to think that more than anything, because like what you're saying, like it doesn't, since it is paracausal and it is darkness, it does deal directly with consciousness, but in
yeah,
the form of energy. Oh my god, dude, that's exactly what's happening. It's absorbing these consciousnesses as just a process and creating energy, dude. Well, not creating,
yeah,
transforming it into energy.
yes, energy transfer. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my god. Did we just discover a thing, myth?
I mean, I think we further explained a thing.
Okay. Fair
Uh,
enough. I feel like I just discovered a thing.
yeah, no, I think that is a good way to think of it though, is energy transfer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is energy is never created nor destroyed, it's just transferred.
But the crazy thing here is the fact that it's consciousness transferred into
Right.
an energy. Like that's like a foreign concept to us as humans. So that's where like everyone on the outside looking at this happening, seeing these exos brick, they're like, well, they're just bricking exos. Like they don't understand that this veil is darkness and that it's consciousness driven, and therefore
Mhm.
for it to get more energy, it has to feed off of something, and it is just feeding off these consciousnesses. Dude, that's fucking
Now,
amazing.
and I suppose if we follow this idea of Sundaresh, this version of Sundaresh being a simulated one,
Yeah.
then, A, that again leads credence to her saying, like, this is just valuable data with the death of the whole team.
Yep.
Like,
That's all
I,
a Vex would see it as is data.
right, like these are data points that I can now build another experiment from. Now, I wonder if one of the main reasons why she is so determined to discover an interface with the veil is because it is paracausal and the Vex cannot understand paracausality.
That's got to be it. That's
And
got
so
to be it, man.
if she is of the Vex,
Yeah.
she is
What better way to
trying
create an
to
interface with it? Dude.
she's trying to understand this, and she's doing it in a way that the same way that the Vex network works, have a chorus and a
Yes.
conductor,
Yes.
which happens to be similar to how the witness was formed. One body, a conductor, manipulating multiple souls, I guess,
Dude,
the
it's
chorus.
starting to come together, myth. We're starting to create something here, and I don't know if I'm still not fully understanding what the hell's happening here, but I'm starting to kind of understand a little bit. I think that this is a thing. I think that this Maya Sundaresh is a Vex simulation one that has either been reintegrated into the Vex or has been taken over by the Vex. Has created that used a Vex signal to disguise her ship and inserted these other Vex on the outside of the city and is now like the one thing on the inside trying to create an interface. And the Vex on the outside know that that is happening, so that's why they don't want to like push in. They don't want to like overtake the city. They know that they've got an inside man working on this, going, okay, eventually they are going to figure out a way to interface with this paracausal thing, and then we will be able to simulate it and understand it, and therefore have the greater power of the universe to survive.
And funny enough, we know that the Vex did attempt to simulate it because that's what the heart of the Black Garden is.
Oh my god, dude.
Was an
Okay,
attempt to create a
this is
veil.
starting to I'm starting to understand this more and more and more. I'm still not fully. I still don't. I don't think I have a full grasp on what the veil actually is, but
Mhm.
I think it is that. I think the veil. I think the veil at a base level is a darkness tool that is designed to convert consciousness into energy. And then that energy, because again, if I think of the veil as a focusing lens for the traveler can then use that energy to create life. And it creates this giant circle of like, creating life, creating consciousness to then be refed back into the veil, to then recreate light, to the, you know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
lost my
No,
theory halfway through there, but
I get what you're saying there. And this goes back to Asa saying that they're two halves of a whole. That
yeah,
presumably the traveler and the veil used to be,
a single
one
entity or
thing.
one device.
Yeah.
I'm still
Yeah, no,
thinking of the traveler as a device though. Like
yep.
I'm still not fully. I think, and that's why I think the traveler was just jumping from planet to planet. It only has one function: terraform, create life, and it's just operating on it's. Oh my god, if that's true, it's doing the exact same thing the veil is. It's just doing what it's programmed to do, and without any type of focusing from the veil, it can't stop doing that until it got separated from the veil or cut off or whatever. Now I'm completely like, I have no idea where the ghost came from. I don't think the ghost came from the
Well,
traveler.
there is a couple questions that pop up with the idea of these being completely, of the traveler at least being completely non-sentient. And that is the idea of, yeah, where did the ghost come from? And then the other idea of why did the traveler flee?
Okay. Okay.
So,
Nope, I got you. Why did it run why did it actively run from the forces of darkness? Because everywhere that the forces of darkness chased it down, it just kept running. It just kept moving on.
right,
Okay.
and it specifically ran. We know from Asa's dialogue in the Origin of the Witness cutscene, it specifically ran from the Witness's people when they tried to
When they tried to
recombine
activate
it
it with
with
the
the
veil.
veil.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So I feel like we're right on the
There's
edge of
something.
something,
There's something here. I just don't
but
know what it
we don't
is.
have those last couple pieces yet. Yeah, but yeah. So all of that's good to keep in mind. In regards to the veil in this context, they're trying to establish that network. They're trying to establish a connection to it, a way to interface with it. Um, the entire team was wiped out. Maya saw this as, just a step
Yep.
towards the solution. Um, and Osiris calls out that, yeah, this idea of many people being controlled by one body or one person is very similar to the witness. So the next log is going to be another one that's a little bit of a doozy to talk about. Uh, so this one goes like this: Shioma Essie, research log Lakshmi 2. Maya's. I don't even know what to say. I had recused myself from further experiments. Told her to take some time off, but she refused. And the minute I wasn't there, she started hauling the brain dead exos out of the cold storage, hooking them up to the Veil interface. She burned through dozens of them, reversed the entire machine's design, used a chorus of brain dead exos to funnel data down to a conductor seat, projecting a mental imprint. Hers. I didn't know. I didn't know Lakshmi too, but Maya did. And now she's made this thing. It speaks with her voice, has some of her memories. The way it looks at me, it's like it knows something I don't. And then we get Nimbus and Osiris. Nimbus asking, "Do you recognize that name? Lakshmi?" And Osiris replying, "Yes and no. Lakshmi, too, was an exo, and once leader of a faction on Earth known as the Future War Cult. She died over a year ago, but she never once made mention of any of this. Of Neomuna, of Maya. Did she know? Did she remember? This is all much a revelation to me as it is to you. It throws everything she did while in the last city into question." And then Nimbus asks, "If she was a copy of Dr. Sundaresh, then is she really dead?" And that's the end of that log.
Dude, this one like fucked my brain up, like genuinely, because it, like, okay, I don't know where to start with unpacking this. Do you have
Well,
a good start point of like
yeah.
how to unpack
Yep.
this? Okay,
Yep.
because I
Let's
don't.
let's let's start at the top.
Okay,
So, who was Lakshmi 2? For those that don't know, Lakshmi 2 was a character in the current Destiny universe as the leader of the Future War Cult up to the season of the Splicer, where Lakshmi tried to organize the citizens of the last city to push out the Elixni, as well as put pressure on what she portrayed as a failing vanguard. Um, and eventually, ultimately, her death was due to her creating a Vex gate with the intention of Vex killing the Elixni for her. Uh, and that Vex gate's creation may have been her idea in a lot of ways, but she was kind of pushed towards that by Savathun when Savathun was still in the body of Osiris. So that's who Lakshmi 2 was as far as we knew prior to this log. What this log calls into question, it tells us that and this is what I was going to reference before, back in one of the earlier logs regarding the exos, the research log for the exos, I remember Maya said that she thinks she can reverse engineer the phenomenon of the veil wiping the exo minds and use it to write data to a clarity infused object and fabricate consciousness. This, I think, is her result. I think
I think you're right on that.
she has taken the body of an exo, a brain dead exo that I think that brain dead exo was called Lakshmi 2 prior to Maya's experiment.
And then wrote her own consciousness
And
onto.
Maya then wrote her own consciousness into this exo known as Lakshmi 2.
Jesus shit.
Because
Oh my god, dude,
she
that's like.
I know, and Chioma says like I didn't know Lakshmi 2, but Maya did, which implies to me that Lakshmi 2 was a person
Yeah,
on their own before this event.
was possibly part of the, well, had to have been part of
Was part of the crew.
the original crew to Neomuna as part of the original Exos. Because that's the other thing too, is like there are no Exos on Neomuna. Like
Correct.
there's nothing.
They all died.
They all died. They all bricked, and now we understand a little bit more why is because Maya's hauling them all up from cold storage and just running them through as fast as she can to get as much data points as she can. And as soon as they've used up their energy, they've bricked out, they've completely just gone dead, she tossed them to the side. They go in the scrap
Yep.
pile. So she's very much like this. This version of Maya is to me is not the same Maya. I think I'm 100% convinced now. This is a dark Maya. This is a dark Vex Maya who is just trying to uh, get this thing to work as an interface, and again, just create an interface with the Veil to be able to understand the Veil and talk to the Veil and utilize the Veil to then report that data back to the Vex, who can then simulate it further and then cause all hell break loose. Like, could control the entire universe theoretically. A Vex that has access to paracausal
Oh yeah,
abilities,
that's a
like,
scary idea.
that's the end of the universe. That is the heat death of the universe.
So there's some interesting implications here. So if we're assuming that we have a Dr. Sundaresh that is a simulation,
Mm-hmm.
who may be part of the Vex network, but perhaps has her own agenda,
Okay.
is not purely just working for the Vex, even though she
As
is tied
like
to them.
a secret Sundaresh.
Right. Perhaps she's looking for a way to escape being tied
Oh,
to the Vex network.
to be fully
Autonomous.
autonomous. Yeah, unintegrated.
And
Deintegrated.
so, right. And so she has written her own mind into this Lakshmi body. And the Lakshmi body presumably would now be separated from anything of the Vex network, but with all of the same information that Maya would have at that moment.
But we also don't know how much of these other exos, this whole like chorus and conductor idea, how much of the other consciousnesses of the other exos were imprinted in there, or if some of the darkness energy that was used imprinted extra consciousnesses on it.
This is true.
Because again, I'm thinking back to the idea of the darkness speaking in whispers, and those whispers always being seeming like many voices, like always
Yeah.
that chorus idea. So there could be more than just Maya's consciousness in that Lakshmi body.
Yep. That's very possible.
Which is probably what's scaring the piss out of Chioma.
Well, Chioma specifically says that it speaks with Maya's voice.
Yep.
Um and it has, well,
Has
and I
some of
guess
her
this
memories.
is a good point. This is a good point. So the way this is written, it says, "I didn't know Lakshmi too, but Maya did. And now she's made this thing. It speaks with her voice, has some of her memories. The way it looks at me, it's like it knows something I don't."
But whose voice and whose memories?
Right, who's the her? Is
Is
that
she referencing Lakshmi, or is she referencing?
Maya?
Oh, that's a good question there.
So is it that it is speaking with Maya's voice and has some of Maya's memories, or is it still speaking as Lakshmi and has some of Lakshmi's memories, but also knows more, knows that
Right,
extra bit that Chioma doesn't?
right. Or has or Porque no los dos. Is it
Yeah,
talking
I
with
mean,
Lakshmi's voice with Maya's memories, or Maya's voice with Lakshmi memories? Like, yeah, this is kind of a fucky bit here.
now I think the implication is that the her is supposed to be Maya here.
I think you're right.
But it isn't entirely clear. So I think that's maybe a little left up for speculation. But so yeah, regardless, Maya has created this, has imprinted herself into this Lakshmi 2 via that theory of writing data to an exo mind like a hard drive
Yeah.
by using the veil.
Which then this of course brings up the obvious question: is this the same Lakshmi too?
That is a good question. I, by all intents and purposes, we have no information to suggest this is not the Lakshmi 2 that we had in game.
Okay.
But as Osiris says, She never made mention to anybody of
about
any
any
of
of this.
this.
Yeah, if this was the same, like she would have had all these memories of this place. Like why would Lakshmi not know of this place? And the
Right.
fact that Lakshmi uses that mind forking device as the future war cult leader, like if this was a Maya or Lakshmi thing, like it would have knowledge of that device and
Yep.
therefore would create an entire cult around it or would come to lead that cult or something. Like
Yep.
it'd be odd that she wouldn't have any information of Neomuna or Maya and wouldn't actively share it.
Yeah, which does bring up a couple questions. So if we assume that she did have that info, and I think it's good to point out that Future War Cult is around that mind forking device, it would make a lot of sense because Lakshmi is one of the main people that use that mind forking device without major complications, mind you.
Oh, that's right. She's the only one of Future War Cult that can use it like
Multiple
continuously.
times in a day and
Yeah.
like yeah. So it would make sense that it's because she has some prior knowledge, having the memories of, Maya who researched it for years.
Well, and that could be the other
Um,
thing too. Is it's some if it's some of her memories, maybe it's just the ones that Maya deems important.
Maybe so. That could be part of it. Maybe she just doesn't have some of but she would know Neomuna. She was made there.
Right.
Um,
Unless if
so like,
unless if Maya's like doing some active wiping on a daily basis type thing, like
well,
you're not really here. Woo.
I feel like that would have been a very specific point of info they would have brought up if
Yeah.
it were the case. So that just kind of leaves us with either A, Lakshmi didn't tell anybody because Lakshmi doesn't know for whatever reason that information has been lost to her, or she does have all this information and never told anybody for a reason
Yeah.
that we just don't know yet.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was a similar, maybe it was a similar case to Maya. If we say, okay, Maya is perhaps a double agent of the Vex in a way,
Dude, is everyone just a double and
um,
triple agent of everything?
everybody's a double triple
This is
agent.
this is just fucking nuts at this point.
But no, but Lakshmi wasn't tied to the Vex network in any way.
Right.
So like, I suppose that doesn't hold as much weight. So regardless, Lakshmi.
Yeah.
she
Yeah. She's
she is
here.
a construct of Maya with Maya's consciousness,
And can
um,
interface with the veil.
and can, well, at least was created from the veil. I don't know if she can
Okay.
interface with it directly going forward, but
That was
that's where
that
she
was one
came
thing.
from.
That was one thing that I couldn't figure out if that was the implications here. Is that Lakshmi herself could interface with the veil in some fashion.
I think it's just that Maya used the veil to write the data to Lakshmi's brain.
Yep, I'm
So,
following you on that one.
so we're going to continue on into the next research log, which goes like this. Chioma Essie, research log, The Veil. She did it. Maya connected people to the Veil, our own scientists, and they survived. I should be happy, but happy that all this horror wasn't for nothing? But I'm not. I'm disgusted. In myself, in Maya, in all of us. This thing, the veil, it's some kind of web of consciousness. Just like the Vex network, but organic instead of artificial. It makes sense why the Vex want it. Paracausal simulations, there'd be no stopping them. I should be happy. To be a part of history, to solve a cosmic riddle. Happy for Maya, happy for all of us, but I'm not. I don't feel anything. Maya is gone. The woman I knew may as well have died when we landed on Neptune. But her ghost still haunts me. This place. I don't know what to do. There's a generation of children that were born here now. This is their home. I don't know what to do. And then there's some conversation between Nimbus and Osiris, but it's not particularly important for what we're talking about.
Oh, we have a
Um,
little bit of a time reference here.
we do have a little bit
She's
of so
talking a generation of grandchildren,
she says
generation.
a generation of children were born here now
So presumably the kids of whoever landed there.
of the crew members. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And we know that
So
lifespan is a long ass time since we're
yep,
post collapse, or
yep.
post golden age at least. Like, yeah. The fact that she's still alive, the fact that both of them are still alive, like,
Well, I don't know that much time has happened yet.
okay.
Because between the collapse and children being born, a generation of children being born, it might only have been like 10 or 20 years.
This also says something about the human race, right? Like we land somewhere and we're bored, and all we want to do is make babies.
Well, I mean, in this case, it's a very real possibility in their minds that they're all that's left of the
Oh,
population.
sure, sure. I guess I'm not thinking of
So
it that sense. I'm thinking of it in like the bored human sense. Like that's
I,
instantly what a bored human does, and you're just like,
I'm not gonna
really?
pretend like that probably didn't play a role,
I mean,
but
yeah, that's yeah. But
yeah.
but needless to say, there are now kids in this colony.
Mm-hmm.
This is seeming like a permanent thing now. There's no for all intents and purposes, this is no longer like a temporary state of existence.
Yes. So and we have their definition of the veil. It is a web of consciousness. It is a
I think that
uh,
leads to the idea of like consciousness being absorbed into it.
I think so. Yeah. It essentially, I think the best way to maybe think of it is it is an internet of the mind.
Yeah, yeah. Of multiple minds, of
Well,
all minds, of all minds.
I mean the internet is of all computers connected to it
That's
or
true.
all devices
That's
connected
true.
to it. So the same kind of thing. Um
Yeah.
and keeping on with this absorption theory, you know, the internet as we know it is all just electrical impulses.
Yep.
Is electrical energy being transmitted into the systems and out to another. So like, yeah, if it is, a web of consciousness, if we stick to this internet of the mind kind of example, then yeah, consciousness is absorbed into it, is sent into it, and if it has nowhere else to go to be output, then it's just there. It's
It
just
just
energy in
chills.
the
Yeah.
system.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I think this is the better understanding that we have of the veil now is this
Yeah.
deep dive that we've done here of truly understanding the idea that the veil is a darkness tool and is connected. Darkness itself as a force is highly connected to consciousness, and therefore why would it why it just kind of makes sense now that this thing would be some type of energy conduit to transfer consciousness into energy.
Yep. Um so and the other thing is that Maya was successful for the first time in connecting real in humans to interface with the veil.
Yep.
And they lived.
Yay! For once they lived.
um so the next research log here says this. Chioma Essie, personal log, incidental. Maya's dead. I found her in the conductor's chair, alone. Nobody knows what she was doing. Her copy, that thing, Lakshmi, is still developmentally incomplete. It doesn't understand what happened to Maya. I had it quarantined until we can do something. And that's the end of that log.
Oh, there you go. Um, so to me, this one says that either the Vex shut off Maya, like they were through with that copy of her. They got the information they needed and have now shut her off.
Potentially.
Or
She
she's
was
uploaded herself and the consciousness is just dispersed somehow.
well, there is another option. So they found her in the conductor's chair alone.
Okay.
Nobody knows what she was doing. I see this as either A, she's trying to absorb all the conscious energy that's in the veil.
Oh, that's a bad thing.
Um
There's no
uh,
way a single human body's
right.
gonna fucking
Bad idea.
not gonna happen.
Um B, what you said, the Vex are like, "Yep, mission complete." Boop.
Yep.
Uh
That to me is the most plausible idea.
C, so they referenced Lakshmi as being developmentally incomplete and that it doesn't understand what happened to Maya.
Like a child.
Seemingly like a child. Uh
Interesting.
Now that could very well be the case. That could be a bit of a ruse. Maybe Lakshmi decided that the Maya that was tied to the Vex network was obsolete and didn't need to continue now that their work was done, and the free quote unquote Maya that lived in Lakshmi could
You
now
are
do
crazy.
whatever.
You are crazy, but I fucking love it.
Is
evil,
it a
evil
stretch?
Lax.
Sure.
I mean, Lakshmi's freaking evil. Like from what I know, from
Oh
what
yeah.
we know as character as Lakshmi 2 in game, she's freaking evil. So yeah, why wouldn't she just fucking snap Maya's neck and be like, "I'm free, sweet, bye."
Yeah. So
Because
yeah, we don't
that's also the thing that I've still never fully understood. If Maya was so intent on making this whole idea of conductor and chorus, why did she never make herself the conductor?
that is a very good point.
You know what I mean? Like this whole time, she's been feeding this idea of conductor and chorus, and why would the main creator of it not want to be the main conductor of it?
Well, she died in the conductor chair.
Right.
So
Maybe she did finally become the conductor?
or maybe
Or
she
the
was trying to, and that was my idea of like maybe she's trying to absorb all the energy that was in the veil.
yeah. And just
Um
overloaded her body and just shut her body out, like shut her consciousness off.
right.
Or there was some type of like reverse feed or something like that, and then her consciousness just shatters. And or like it could be the other idea too of like, since there are now so many consciousnesses acting individually inside this network, there was no way for her to like overtake all of them now, because the whole idea of it was for them to be absorbed into a single entity. And since from the get-go there really was no single entity, all the individual consciousnesses now just kind of act on their own and just obliterated her mind.
Yeah. I think they very purposefully obscure. I mean, it literally says no one knows what she was doing.
Yeah.
So like yeah, I think we're meant to kind of guess at that.
Because and again, thinking of the that idea of that conductor and chorus, but knowing what how the cloud arc actually exists, of there's consciousnesses everywhere. Like there's hundreds of consciousnesses in there, but there is no main conductor.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
It's just a web.
it's just a web. So that's where like I think like that idea of conductor and chorus has now just completely gone away. Like it in the terms of what they were thinking of originally doing, it cannot exist anymore because of the way it exists now in this web like form.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. So, but Maya's dead. Lakshmi's in quarantine until they figure out something to do with her.
Deleter.
Now, the next log, there has been a very long period of time between these logs. Potentially hundreds, if not thousands of years. So the next log goes like this. Chioma Essie, log, whatever. The war mind has reactivated. Our base on Hyperion detected network activity. He found us, classified our location as Nephil's stronghold. We already estimated that Rasputin has attempted remote interface with our network. Our research, it can't. I won't let what we've learned here ruin more lives. I'm going to send Stargazer off-world to deal with the problem. They can take Lakshmi with them and do whatever, as long as it's out of the city, out of my sight. It's a risk taking an action off-world, exposing ourselves, but we have to. What we've done here has to be quarantined. The Veil is too much power, too much for anyone. And then Nimbus says, Stargazer. That puts the time of these records around the foundation of the Cloudstriders. Chioma must have been really old. And Osiris sang. And Stargazer is the one responsible for redacting Nephil's stronghold from Rasputin's records, or Maya by proxy with Lakshmi. Fascinating. That's the end of that log.
So that's Destiny 1.
Yeah, the War Mind becoming active. Yeah.
That's where I'm like super confused at a
Well,
timeline here.
that's not necessarily true.
Okay.
So remember, the War Mind activated prior to Destiny 1 because during the Dark Ages with the Iron Lords, Rasputin was
Oh,
active.
that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
So Rasputin woke up
We
long
just didn't
before
reconnect him to the
D1.
war sets. That's what
Right.
we were doing in Destiny 1 at the very beginning of like the
Yes.
second mission of D1 vanilla is
Yep.
you activating that the war mind or activating the network to connect back to the war mind. Then there's the hive show up and you're like, "Oh shit,
Yep.
fuck, like kill everything." Yeah.
Yep. And you get treated to one of the best musical scores
Oh
in
my
Destiny history
god,
during
it's
that mission.
so good. So good. Yeah. Hell, that mission was good. That was a fun one. But this is not that. That's not the reactivation of the war mine, is what you're saying.
No, this is just Rasputin is awake and has noticed them.
Actively blipped it and gone, hey, I see you.
Yep. And has apparently tried to establish connection to their network.
Sure. Why not?
Because, yeah, I mean, Rasputin at this point in time is like, I'm the war mind. I own everything in the solar
Yeah.
system.
I was created to save humanity. You are a saving point of humanity. I need to reconnect to you.
Yeah. And
God, could you
so,
imagine him being uploaded into the Veil?
oh God, that would have
Because
been.
he's a consciousness, right?
He is now for or was when we last saw him.
Oh, he's dead now.
He's
Damn
gone now.
it. Damn it, Myth. Now I'm sad.
but so Chioma has lived from the beginning of the collapse to at least the Dark Ages.
That's a long time, dude.
Which was again as Nimbus says, Stargazer was one of the first. I think he was number 3, in the Cloud Striders, and she sent him along with Lakshmi to go erase this information and prevent the War Mind
Dude, that
from,
means that
being able to find them.
that means that the Dark Ages were way longer than we realize.
I mean, we never really had any kind of reference.
I mean, if we're
But
using
yeah,
the number of Cloud Striders and their lifespan in that room,
yeah.
if this is number 3, we're only 15 years into it.
Now, to be fair, we also don't know if the number of Cloud Strider memorials is like
Right.
we don't know that that's time accurate, or if that's just the art team. It's like, yeah, we need to make this look full because that looks better.
Sure,
Uh,
sure. And it could be just a thing of like they start out as this and then they return to this.
right. Yeah.
That could be the other part of it too, because we really don't know how many Cloud Striders there are. There's only 7 of them that are actually given names.
Yep.
The 5 originals and the 2 that we meet.
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Time is a fucky thing.
Time is a fucky thing. But
It's a flat
all that
circle is
being
what it is.
said, Chioma has lived a very long time
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah.
And has sent the Stargazer Cloud Strider to, along with Lakshmi, to go disable or hide this information from Rasputin.
And to just
Um,
dump Lakshmi. Dump like a
Pretty
child
much,
Lakshmi on Earth, I
yeah. I mean,
guess.
she showed up in the city somehow, so
Yeah.
presumably Stargazer went there, perhaps used her security clearance as Maya,
Oh, sure.
to be able to wipe the War Minds systems.
Yeah.
Uh, and then yeah, just left her, I
Yeah.
guess. And it's
Said, we're
like,
done
here,
with you.
you can
Bye.
figure this out. You know,
Boy, that's got
I,
now. And honestly, and this is kind of weird to say. Like, I almost feel sorry for Lakshmi at this point. Like, because we're
I
talking
mean,
like
in some ways, yeah,
a child essentially is just dumped off. Like, kind of has an idea where she came from, but doesn't really. And she's just like, I'm a robot. I don't know what the fuck is going on here.
yeah, yeah.
Jesus. Now I kind of feel for
Um,
Lakshmi. Well, not really. She was an asshole.
yeah, but yeah, so there are 2 logs left. I'm gonna skip, or no, I'm not. I'm not going to skip the second to last one
We're
because
not going
that,
to skip any of them. We're going to do all of them.
some of it's a bit of a fluff piece, but actually the discussion between Osiris and Nimbus after it is important. So, the next log is Chioma Essie, log 13. The Veil is too great a power for humanity to wield responsibly. All that's left is to close down the facility. Neomuna will go on. Humanity will persist on the back of our unspeakable work. But I won't pass that guilt on to the future. My hands can be bloodied, but let the children have innocence. And in my disillusion, I will find peace. Now, the more important bit of this log is Osiris and Nimbus. Osiris says, I don't know if I agree with Chioma's choice to hide the sins of the past, but I also do not know what I would have done in her place. And now the big one. Nimbus says, Quinn says there's a data signature on this file, like something else was crawling the network, a Vex signature. What's MSun 12? And that's the end of this log.
Well, shit. I shit. I don't have words for this myth. I have no words for this. What is Oxot and who is Imsun 12? That's what I've got to say.
Yeah, so the repeated question dialogue aside, um, I think this lends a lot of credence to our thought process that the Maya of Neomuna was a simulation,
Absolutely. 100%.
and
100%.
perhaps maybe that original simulation didn't actually die. It just it re-uploaded into the Vex network.
Yep. Or into the cloud
Um,
network, one of the two.
right,
Because they're
and
saying that the signature on this log is Imsun 12, right?
is MSun 12 is the signature of a Vex a Vex thing that was crawling the network and reading this file.
Yep. So it's trying to find bits.
MSun 12.
Well, so I guess this is the other thing too. So here's a let's go with that idea of something that was crawling the Vex network and trying to find this file. So if MSun 12 is a non-corrupted version of Maya Sundaresh, it was trying to find Chioma.
That
It was
is
trying to
certainly a
find her
possibility.
wife
Yeah.
and find memories of her wife. and so yeah, and try to see, hey, did my wife survive? Can I
Yeah.
report this back to the original Maya Sundaresh that your wife survived? Oh, there's a theory.
That I mean, if that is a good point. If Maya Sundaresh on Neomuna was a simulation, where was the real one?
Yeah. So if this MSun 12 is a good copy of it, which is also something that was messing around with the Oxot machine, which we know to be a variation or the original of the future prediction engine that was then turned into the mind forking thing. All of this
Mm-hmm.
still being researched by the great Maya Sundaresh of the Vex, or I guess of both the Maya Sundaresh that studies the Vex and the Maya Sundaresh of the Vex.
Right.
Um, maybe this MSun 12 is crawling through the network by way of the Vex to find, hey, your wife survived. Your wife is here on Neomuna. Here's a log of her. I need to report this back to the original because maybe the original is being held hostage somewhere. Shit, I don't know. We have no
Right. Who
idea
knows?
where the original is if we're going off this theory that the Maya Sundaresh in front of us, or the one that has been deleted in front of us or re-uploaded, is a Vex copy, which that's what I'm going with.
I think there's a lot of things that make that very plausible.
Yep. And we also here, I guess, is the last, like, so all of the Neomunian people, like, there are no more babies being made. That all of their consciousnesses
Right.
are uploaded. So
All of their
that's
consciousness are uploaded. Their bodies are still in stasis.
right, because that's what they use as like a
So
basis for the Cloud Strider reanimation.
right, they pull someone out of stasis, out of the matrix,
Yeah,
and then they
inject
physically
them full
transform
of
them into a cloud strider.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's not clear if clearly people are not procreating in the normal way. Uh, but that's not to say that there couldn't be some kind of like population requirement where you know they were artificially incubating.
Because eventually
Um,
you'd run out of bodies, right?
right, yeah.
Like, mathematically, there are only so many bodies on there, on there that exist there, and
Now
if
it's
they're
also
all in
worth
cold
pointing
storage,
out,
then they're not making babies.
right? It's also worth pointing out the citizens of Neomuna have not been in the Cloud Ark 100% for all that long.
Okay,
It's
okay,
it's been maybe may I hesitate to even say 100 years, but
okay.
it hasn't been too long
But
that
but with
they went
Chioma
into
saying
this.
that I'm putting our sin, I'm hiding it here. Like, to me, that says that the last people have been uploaded and that no more are going to be uploaded.
I don't think that's what she's saying
Okay,
because and I could see how it can be taken that way, and that may be the case. I read this more as Chioma didn't predict the Cloud Arc becoming what it has and was intending to be like, this is just going to be a silent power plant that no one else understands. It just works. And I'm
yeah,
shuttering the building so no
okay,
one will ever mess with this again.
okay. Shut because okay. So I think that's a distinction that I keep forgetting. The Cloud Arc is not the Veil.
The Cloud Arc just runs off the veil.
The Veil is just an infinite power source for the Cloud Arc that is, and so I guess that's the question: is where's the Veil getting its energy from? But it's all those consciousnesses that have been uploaded into it that are now
Well, the
I
the
don't know, like
veil,
feeding the energy or being
the veil
transferred into
is
energy.
the veil's paracausal.
Right.
It has cause without effect. It's just generating energy from nowhere. Is
Oh
my
shit.
assumption.
So then why would it need to kind of like harp back on one of our earlier theories from tonight? Why would it need the consciousnesses to be transferred into energy?
Well, and what we were talking about before is if it's a tool, it doesn't need anything. It's not consciously absorbing stuff.
Oh,
It's
it's
just
just
that's
doing
what
it on it.
happens
Oh,
near it.
okay, okay, I got you. I'm following now. It's not. it's not consciousness. It's not consciously taking these consciousnesses and turning it
Yeah.
into energy and then using that energy. It's just generating energy, but because it has no direction, because it has no like somebody hasn't like turned the switch from like, hey, only absorb 5% to 100% or whatever. Like it's just passively absorbing this shit and not knowing, like it has no consciousness, so it can't know what to do with it. It's just doing what it's programmed to do.
Yeah, it doesn't have a way to regulate itself.
Yep. 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 That. Yep. Okay. 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 Now I'm getting a fuller picture. I kept associating this web of consciousnesses as the cloud arc. But that's not, those are two separate things. The cloud arc is where all the consciousnesses of Neomunians live, whereas the veil is just the power source for said cloud arc. And by Chioma shuttering the doors and just saying this thing is what it is, it just works. Full stop.
Yeah.
Okay. 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 I'm following now. I'm
Now,
following.
it is a slightly worrying and like, what the fuck, to me, to think that this entire population of people had zero understanding of the power source that ran this thing that they all plugged
And
themselves
they
into.
just plugged in like fuck it. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm kind of with you on that. Like I would question some part of like, so can you imagine that though? Like some dude just sitting on the outside of the chair, like, hey, so where's this power coming from? Ah, don't worry about it. I feel like I should worry about it.
Yeah. Like, but really,
But really,
where?
you're plugging me into a computer? Is that like how is this computer powered? Is there who's going to run the power source outside of the computer? Like there's still got to be someone outside running the generators, right? No, no, no. It has infinite power. Infinite power, is that really? Bzz. And then all of a sudden they're uploaded and you're just like, "Well, shit." I was in the middle of asking a question here. Yeah, that's exactly what
Yeah.
happened.
So this is the last log, and I know we're getting pretty long in our episode length, but
Oh, that's okay.
we
We're going to go long
we
on this one.
skipped one. Yeah, we skipped a week, so we're
You're
gonna do a long
you're going
one.
to get a bonus episode tonight.
Yeah. So but as far as the logs go, this is the last one. And this one also has leaves some questions. It goes like this. Chioma Essie, log 14. Years ago, back on Venus, the Vex simulated copies of us, Maya and I, trapped in a virtual hell. After so long, even hell can look like heaven, can't it? I'm tired. I'm done. Maya has to be out there. The Maya I remember. And all I want is one more moment with her. To hold her in my arms and tell her that I love her. So that she can tell me to hush one more time. If we learned anything from the veil, it's that eventually we all have to learn to let go. So, I made contact with the Vex. I'm ready. And it's time to say goodbye. And that's the end of that log.
So she like is she a copy? No, she's the real one. She's got to be the real one,
I'm kind of wondering.
right? Like she made contact with, like you just walked up to a Vex and it's like, "Hey, Bob, what's going on? Can I integrate into your system?" And the Vex doesn't
Right,
shoot her in the
like,
face. Like what? You don't just walk up to a Vex and be like, "Hey, bro, what's up?"
so I think perhaps the implication here is that maybe the Chioma and the Maya here were
Are both
simulations.
simulations? Jesus shit.
Because Chioma says, the Vex simulated copies of us trapped in a virtual hell.
And hell can look
After
like
so
heaven. Yeah.
long, even hell can look like heaven, can't it?
Yep.
Kind of making it sound like
She is a copy.
she's in that
That
hell
hell.
slash heaven.
Yep. Yep.
I And then, yeah, she's saying, like, eventually we all need to learn to let go. So I made contact with the Vex. I'm ready. It's time to say goodbye.
Now I'm fully starting to think that she had more. She was like a non-corrupted version.
Right. She was a truer, non-corrupt copy of Chioma.
Yep.
Whereas the Maya simulation was very
Fully
much
corrupted.
it wasn't Maya
Fully
anymore.
darkness corrupted. Which, yeah, is this the start of bonus episode?
So yeah, I think we'll do some bonus episode here. So that is the
Bonus
end.
episode. Da, 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 da.
That is the end of the Veil Containment readings. That is them in their entirety. I very much encourage you, even if you listen to all of them from us, I very much encourage you to listen to them in game because the voice actress they have for Chioma is excellent
Yeah.
and delivers these in a way that I never could. So well worth the listen. Um, but yeah, so let's get into some bonus episode and start talking theory. Well, more theories.
More theory.
More
I guess
theory.
we now have an established theory of the veil. Then it's a darkness device that uh, absorbs consciousnesses without any type of regulation and creates energy out of it.
Yeah.
And that's just what it does. Like it's paracausal, so it doesn't need the consciousness to create the energy. That's just what is happening. And now it has a web of consciousnesses trapped, presumably within it, um, that are just there now. So yeah, that's what
Yeah.
the veil is.
So now we get into some fun theory craft.
What it does with the traveler, I still have no fucking clue. I do like that idea of circle of life, though, of like
Yeah.
the traveler is then using that energy to create life, which is then creating consciousness, which is then being fed back into the veil, which is then transferring that energy back into the traveler to create life, to create this constant circle. It does kind of follow that idea of like the winnower and the gardener.
A little bit. Yeah.
So yeah,
A little bit. So alrighty. I guess I'm just gonna start at the top of
yeah,
this particular
jump right
theory.
into it.
So this is something that I'm going to call the voice in the dark theory.
Okay.
And this theory really hinges on on a couple lines that came to us from these research logs. Namely, research log number 2, titled "The Veil." So I'm going to read through a portion of it again, and then I'm going to explain why I think it's significant. So, Chioma, they've arrived on Neptune and says something was waiting for us, an alien structure. It's an electromagnetic anomaly. It's definitely paracausal, like the Traveler. Maya calls it the Veil. She says she heard the name in a whisper when she looked at it. And when I asked her who whispered, she said it was her own voice. Those 2 lines.
Yeah.
Maya calls it the Veil. She says she heard the name in a whisper when she looked at it. When I asked her who whispered, she said it was her own voice.
We've had that happen to us.
Yes.
And our mirror thing says almost the same thing that Maya's mirror thing says to Maya.
So why is this significant? Because on first reading, it may sound to you the same way it did to me. It's like, okay, it's the Veil. It'd be creepy.
Yeah.
Like it does those things, and the witness reached out and is like corrupting Maya through the Veil. However,
The
there are
witness
some
doesn't know where the veil
significant
is, and therefore can't
exactly.
talk through the veil to Maya.
There are some very significant problems with that idea. So
So what the fuck is whispering to Maya then?
so to explain the timeline here, Savathun has stolen the veil and hidden it on Neptune just before Maya and her crew arrive to discover it. It has been stated a number of times that Savathun's stealing of the veil directly led to the stalling of the witness's plans. Clearly, the witness did not know where the veil was because they left the soul system while it was here.
Mm-hmm.
They retreated for one reason or another, and the veil was still here. I would assume if they knew its location, they would just hop down to Neptune and be like, all right, plan
Found it.
continues.
Found my keys.
Right. So, yes, this brings about the question of who told Maya the name of the veil if the witness didn't know where it was, and presumably because of that, could not have spoken to somebody through it. Now let's bring this one step further. When the witness's people first found the veil, according to Asa's dialogue, they also referred to the veil as their salvation. Maya, also in the same log, Chioma says Maya is convinced this thing, in her own words, she says, it'll be our salvation. So we now have the witness, or the witness's people, and Maya both calling this object the veil of their own accord, and both deciding that it is going to be their salvation. And Maya has said that she knows it's called this because it told her that, but it used her own voice to talk to her.
Do you remember, or do you have the dialogue that was at the end of what would that have been the end of? That'd been the end of Shadowkeep. Where we're in the garden, where we touch that device inside the pyramid ship and we're transported to the garden, and then there's a copy of us standing in front of us that talks about we are neither your friend nor your enemy, we are your salvation.
I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure I can find it somewhere.
I know I'm probably paraphrasing, but I'm pretty sure that's the entirety of the
It's more or less
like we are neither your friend nor your enemy, we are your salvation, I think is what our copy says to us in our own voice to us. So again, that same theme of something talking to us in our own voice saying something about salvation. Now here's the silly question. Does the witness, anytime we've ever talked to the witness or seen the witness talk, ever mention the word salvation? Because I can't think of a single instance where the witness himself actually uses the term salvation.
Did the witness use I'm trying to remember, did they say salvation in the very first cutscene we ever saw them in?
Back at the end of Witch Queen? I don't remember. I don't think so. I think it was you have no more pieces, you have nowhere left to run. Like, I don't remember him ever saying salvation, but he could have. I don't know. I don't remember. If your fingers can type faster than mine, which I'm 100% sure they can, you could probably find that transcript faster than me. Because that's kind of like the telling thing. If he never said that, then we are officially dealing with two different entities.
And that's the big linchpin. That's the theory that this is about. And why I call this the voice in the dark theory. I think we have some evidence that the voice in the dark is not the witness, and that these
I
are in
think you're
fact
right.
two different things.
I'm starting to think more along that lines, that the after seeing that cutscene of like the witnesses people discovering the traveler, and then the witnesses people discovering the veil and going, oh, F that noise, like, and then becoming this consciousness, and then chasing the traveler because it ran the hell off. They're like, no, 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 come back, come back, come back, come back. We need purpose. We're gonna make purpose. And yeah, I think that I think the voice in the darkness is the darkness, the entity. I'm starting to think that the darkness, the entity, or the gardener, or sorry, the winnower, is this voice in the darkness. That it's completely separate from the witness. The witness is just another thing that has succumbed to it.
And I'm of the same thought that, so, and to expand upon that further, the witness found the veil, called it the veil, inferred that it was their salvation, and then decided to do kind of this conductor and chorus, this like merging of minds using the veil's power into a singular being with many souls or minds or consciousnesses inside of it. That is
Because where the hell did it get that idea? It had to have gotten that
right.
from the veil.
And that is play by play exactly the same steps that Maya Sundaresh did on Neomuna.
Yep.
Unsuccessfully, as far as we know. Um, but like she was trying to do the same thing, conductor and chorus, have many minds tied to one conductor. And perhaps she just tried to pull the trigger a little too soon and it fried her brain. Uh, or maybe something else happened that we discussed possibilities. Um,
Or she missed some part of the ritual, or because it was being hidden from the darkness, like now the dark,
right.
because like that's the thing, that's the key difference between these two instances. The veil on Neomuna was hidden completely from the rest of the universe, so the entire universe had no idea that the veil was here. But the veil is still active, it's still doing what it's designed to do, and that's collect consciousnesses and create energy. So it's it, to me, it's saying that like without the voice, or without the darkness behind it going, hey, this is how you do this, it's never going to work. You know what I mean? Like it's just going to be passive and collect consciousness, create energy, collect consciousness, create energy, and that's all it can do. But without having the actual gardener, or the voice in the darkness going, hey, once you've collected all these consciousnesses, now feed them into this single body, and boom, there you go. Now you got conductor and chorus. Because presumably that's what it happened with the witnesses people, is it collected all of them and then fed them all into a single body and was like, done. I as the winnower of the garden, the separation of everything bad into this single thing, have now done what I can do, what I have been purpose driven to do my entire existence, and that's create
Mm-hmm.
a single thing out of many.
So I have the this is what was said at the end of Shadowkeep. The dark mirror of ourselves says, "You made it. We have heard your cries for help, and soon we will answer." We ask who they are. They say, "Don't you recognize us? We are not your friend. We are not your enemy. We are your salvation." And that's the entirety of the scene.
Yeah, that's it just blows my mind, like that the fact that it's talking the same way that Maya's talking here, like the same way that the veil, the witnesses people talk. Like all of these things are talking of their own. I don't want to say of their own accord, but they kind of are. But they're using the same dialogue. But then once that once the veil is, or the darkness is separated from these things, it doesn't seem like it. I mean, I can't say it doesn't seem like it doesn't talk like that anymore because like there is no separation. Like we touch the darkness thing, and then we're fed this scene, and then we're like, well, fuck that, and just walk away from it. The witnesses people interact with the veil, become this one being, and then chase the traveler down because with the veil in tow, essentially, because they've been given purpose now, and that's their purpose driven is to chase down this thing and collect this thing, and but they're still not themselves saying salvation. Like they're not saying each other is salvation. Like they're not saying this new entity called the witness is the salvation. The witness itself has deemed itself the gardener or the winnower rather. I keep saying gardener, the winnower because it says it's giving itself that purpose because it lives so
Right.
long underneath the traveler without purpose, and so that's what's happening there. And then again, I don't think that in Maya's case, like she says this thing is their salvation, but then that's it. Like it she doesn't know where to go with it at that point because it's so cut off because it's cut off from the rest of the universe. It doesn't know what to do with that information. Which again is still kind of odd that even with Neomuna being cut off from the rest of existence, essentially, that Rasputin is still able to find it. But I guess it finds it through the Hyperion
Yeah.
um, base. So I guess that's not too far fetched.
Yeah. So let's back up a second. Um, so if we follow this theory thread and we assume that the voice in the darkness is a different entity than the witness,
Okay.
I'm going to pose the thought for the time being that we assume the voice in the darkness is a more powerful entity than the witness. Perhaps the originator of dark.
Okay. If we're thinking of like a darkness army hierarchy, right?
Right. If we assume that instead of the witness being the top of the pyramid, in truth, the voice in the darkness is the top of the pyramid.
Ha, because darkness and pyramid. I see what you did there.
Yeah. Uh, I would theorize that the voice in the dark has at least some amount of control over the veil, or can use the veil as a conduit for its consciousness to connect with others.
Okay.
And through that, it seems to be spreading the same idea of take these many consciousnesses into one body. You know,
Yep.
it seems to be spreading this conductor and chorus idea, which is carried out in different manners, but overall has the same end goal.
Yep.
Now, I would theorize that if this is the case, the witness is simply one of the most successful iterations of this idea.
Sure.
And that what we saw in Neomuna was maybe a unsuccessful attempt at creating this system.
Because it's more of a web on in the veil on Neomuna rather than a conductor chorus style.
Well, or just, perhaps human minds aren't built in a way to be able to withstand it the same way that the witnesses people were. The witnesses people also spent eons of time around the traveler to grow and evolve. Like there's a
Oh,
lot of
I'm
there's a
curious
lot
if
of
that's like a
things there.
requirement too. Like does the traveler need to be active around whatever consciousnesses are there to kind of like get them to the point to where they can feed back into the because again, thinking if the traveler and the veil are supposed to be two halves of a whole, do these things need to be around the traveler long enough to get to the point to be able to be fed back into the veil?
Yeah. Possibly. But let's put that to the side for the moment.
Okay.
So we have this voice in the darkness that is directing this idea of conductor and chorus. Now, if we go back to the unveiling book,
Yep.
And if we know now that unveiling was written by the witness and is a subjective interpretation of what they think their purpose in the universe is.
Yep.
However, I believe it is also a subjective interpretation of a vision that they saw of the true origins of the universe.
Okay.
Based on Asa's dialogue, where she says, they were shown a glimpse beyond to the beginning when they reunited the Veil and the Traveler for the first time. I'm taking that to mean a glimpse beyond into the beginning is a vision of the true origins of the universe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, if we assume that unveiling, at least in part, has grains of truth in it, one of the things in unveiling is about the fact that a common pattern always wins the game, is always the last thing standing at the end of a given universe's life cycle. And that's what caused the initial struggle between the gardener and the two entities. I don't know that winnower is accurate anymore. The two entities that controlled everything, it caused a struggle and strife between the two, and that's what caused everything that we have in the Destiny universe. Now, we have also theorized that that pattern is likely related to the Vex, perhaps a precursor to the Vex algorithm that created Radioloria and all that.
Yep.
And with that in mind, the conductor and chorus system that was placed in Neomuna was described as being derived from what they saw the interactions of Radiolaria being. So, if we assume that the conductor and chorus setup is the same or similar to how Vex Radiolaria works, and Vex are a version of the algorithm that wins all the other universes, and the dark entity, the voice in the darkness's whole purpose or end game has been to prove to the other entity, the voice of the light, that pattern is the way the universe is meant to end, then it would make sense if that voice in the darkness was trying to spread that pattern to anything that would listen to it.
I was going to say, as a way of a forced, like, I told you so. Like, look, all these things are doing exactly what I said would do. But in secret, it's pushing them to do all of that. That means that it was wrong. That means that by way of introducing paracausal, you can make the universe a better place. You can make life flourish by having many. You know what I'm saying? Like, by him going around
Right.
and essentially cheating at the game and introducing that idea of, see, it all comes down to a single thing, to the other entity, and the other entity going, well, wait a second, you cheated. You showed them how to do that.
Well, and in the voice in the darkness may just say like, well, I just did the same thing you did.
I just nudged him. Yeah, I introduced my
I
own
just
rule.
gave him a nudge.
Dude.
All the voice in the darkness needs to win the game is for one entity to follow that pattern to completion of the universe. That's what the witness is doing.
Yeah.
So this again, I think further solidifies this idea that perhaps the witness is just being puppeted by
right.
something else to its own gain.
I think as much as we look at the witness as like this evil entity, I mean, yeah, it could be evil. Shit, I don't know. hell, it's all a point of view thing, right? Like it's like Star Wars, like from the point of view of the Emperor, like, oh, the Jedi are evil and blah blah blah. Blah. So yeah, like it's interesting to think of it that way. But I don't know. I think there's some validity to this, that the witness is just being manipulated. And at what point in time is he going to become a friend?
I don't know that the witness is ever going to become a friend. I don't think that that's ever going to happen.
We keep coming across these, like, we came across the Fallen and now they're our friends. We came across the Cabal and now they're our friends. Like, are Vex going to be our friends next too? And then the witness is going to be our friends, and then everyone's just friends in the universe? Is that the underlying goal here? We're all just teaming up to fight the darkness, to show the darkness, hey man, you're cheating. You're cheating at the damn game. Like, I get that the other guy cheated first, but you can't, like, cheat in retaliation to be like, haha, my point is valid and your point sucks. But that's exactly what's happening here.
So
dude, this is a giant mind fuck, man. Like,
it's
my brain is dissolving because of this.
So I want to kind of further add some supporting evidence for this. Look at the first couple lines of the chapter titled Meaning from the lore book titled In Spiral, which dropped with Lightfall. And this is a much longer entry than what I'm going to read, but I'm wanting to focus on the lines 2 and 3 of this.
Okay.
They say, there is a voice that echoes across the darkness, and it asks this question: what is the purpose of it all? And there is another voice that calls back and says, listen, I will tell you a purpose. I will tell you of a final shape. I think voice number 1 is the witness, or the witness's people seeking their purpose. And voice number 2 is what I have been calling the voice in the darkness, saying, oh, I'll tell you what your purpose is.
I'll give
this
you
pattern.
Purpose. Yeah.
it's this conductor and chorus pattern. So I'm really of the mindset that, like, this is there is a puppet master above the witness.
I think you're right. Yeah, this is I all evidence is pointing to that.
Yes,
which
I feel like it is.
Which, so funny enough, if that's true to the dark, then who's the puppet master for the light?
This is a good point. There is some evidence here and there to suggest that there is a voice in the light. Again, similar to the Veil, perhaps the Traveler is not the body of this voice in the light. Perhaps it's just a conduit through which they can speak.
Yeah.
In the few instances where they choose to. Because we do know that people have received visions from the Traveler. I mean, Crow leading you to Hawkmoon. There was literally a hawk of light leading us to Hawkmoon. There are records of previous speakers prior to the speaker that died in game. Previous speakers did in fact get dream visions from the Traveler.
Our current one's the only one that said, I speak for it. It doesn't. I never said it spoke to me.
Right. Additionally, there's the lore entry where Rulk is trying to convince a ghost to, like, come with him so he can, and experiment on it.
Fucking blows up in his face. You are not meant for this entity. Yeah.
Yeah, like a voice comes over the ghost and tells Rulk, like, this one is not for you. And Rulk addresses it as, like, says adversary, like,
yeah.
Is this my adversary speaking to me? The adversary speaking to me? And then, the ghost detonates.
Ghost freaking supernova in his hand. Like, you ain't getting this one, buddy. which also means that there is still a pure connection there between. And again, it still brings to question the ghost, right? Like, the fact that the witness can talk through it, like that's just fucking whatever. I don't even know what to make of that anymore. But and then right in that instance, the traveler can presumably talk through it, or the voice of the light can talk through it. So yeah, like, what is a ghost? Like, is it truly all of the light? Is it truly all of the dark? Like, I don't know, man.
I think ghosts are a big question mark right now.
Ghosts are really a big question mark. The only reference we have of where they come from and what they are is their own telling of that they were released from the traveler. That's it. At the end of the collapse, the ghosts appeared from the traveler, and the only thing that says that is the ghost itself. So it's like, do
Yeah.
you question its own entity of what? But even they're like, well, we don't have much memory. We don't have any memory of anything before that. It's like, okay, well, then how do you know you came from the traveler?
Right. Like
Just because you're a
it's
ball and it's a ball doesn't mean that they
it doesn't
coincide.
doesn't mean it's the same. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think ghosts are a big question mark. Hopefully we find out more about them. Like they don't even necessarily know where they came from. They just know what they've been told like everyone else. Um I have a sneaking suspicion that they are not of the light or not purely of the light. Um just because of how easily the witness can just pluck ours
Manipulate it. Yeah. Yeah.
out of the air and be like, "You're mine now."
You're mine.
Uh,
I talk through you now. Because
so
it does feel like if they all came out of the traveler, like it feels like the traveler's a giant pinata because the bottom of it like broke is
yeah,
broken out and then they just like spilled out of it. Like, ooh, candy. Yeah, no, that's what I keep having this vision of. If like if that's where ghosts came from, like that's how that works. But I don't know.
yeah. So a couple of other pieces of information I wanted to point out in regards to this voice in the dark entity. Um, so the first is what I think might be a misconception from Mara.
Okay.
So Mara says during the parasite quest, she says the line, "Before coming to you, I sought information about the voice in the dark, the witness. What I found, well, you could say I was granted a personal viewing of our impending doom at the hands of the witness." So there's more to it, but Mara has heard the term voice in the dark before because she
Oh.
references it.
And equates it to being something different than the witness.
Well, she I think is equating it to being the witness. But
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's a
Sure.
misconception on her part. The fact that
Sure.
the voice in the dark as a phrase exists though implies that there is at least an idea of that being a thing. And I think this is Mara assuming that the witness and the voice in the dark are one and the
Oh,
same.
she's making the same assumption that all of we are.
Right. Um Now Savathun, good old Savathun, for her two truths and two lies.
Fuck me, dude. Everything she said has become a
I
truth,
know.
man.
I
And
know.
that's what's like fucking me with her is like I can't. Like, what's the best lie you could tell? The truth.
Yeah.
Like, and then just say like I don't know if I'm lying or not. Like that's like Savathun might be the greatest thing in all of Destiny.
So Savathun, one of the truths that she gives you says, "The witness is the child of darkness, and the darkness will eat everything, and its shape will be the witness's teeth."
I
So,
don't know, man. I don't know. I've never seen a witness's mouth, so I can't tell you what his teeth look like.
right, it's covered the whole time.
It's covered. You never see its mouth. Maybe they're triangles. Maybe they're circles. I don't know.
I
Maybe they're
think
squares.
I think it's
Wouldn't that just be a giant
metaphorical.
like? Wouldn't that just be like a giant fuck you if they're all squares?
Oh man, we haven't even seen that shape before.
That's the final shape, a square.
It's just two
Yes, I do
triangles
believe
put
it
next
is.
to each other.
I do believe it is metaphorical myth. I
Yes.
don't think she's talking literal, or is
No.
she?
No, I'm pretty sure it's metaphorical. But so yes, the witness is the child of darkness. We kind of already knew
Yep.
that. Darkness existed before the witness. Um, but then specifically, the darkness will eat everything, and its shape will be the witness's teeth. Meaning the darkness, something with intention, is going to use the witness as its tool
Yeah.
to eat slash end the
Yeah.
universe.
Absolutely. That's what the darkness wants. Like I
So,
said, I'm starting to like. I almost want to go back and listen because we did a whole episode on the two truths, two lies,
mm-hmm.
and we try to determine like what's the truth, what's a lie, and all that stuff. I almost want to go back and listen to that and like figure out like are all of these just truths? Like,
I mean, yeah, I feel like there were a few that were lies in there. Like I do feel like it was two truths and two lies. Um, but they just weren't the ones we thought
yeah,
necessarily.
yeah. I mean, we got so much more information now. And again, the fun thing with those two, if you go back in game today, and you go through each week and play those missions back, she'll tell you another truth, like,
Yep.
or she'll say she'll like with the dialogue that you just read, she'll say this is the truth, but then she'll feed you different truths to different parts.
Yeah.
So it's like when she goes through and tells it all, every single one of them is a truth, or every
Maybe.
single one of them is a lie, and
Yep.
it's like, yeah,
So
she's hard to deal with.
the last little bit of information that I'm gonna throw on this bonfire of a theory here uh, is from the Constellations lore book, and in it, who we presume is the traveler, or maybe the voice in the light, says, speaks of a false sister having arrived in Seoul, which is the start of
Savathun.
the collapse.
Oh,
So a false sister arriving in Seoul implies that perhaps there is a true sister somewhere.
I was thinking the false sister being like Savathun, like she's not really working for anyone of the dark, like she is the false sister.
I suppose that could be an interpretation for sure.
Because
Um,
Savathun just wants to be free of the game.
right.
Like she is another entity that knows that she's in a game and she wants to be free of it.
Yep.
And so her idea was like, well, if I trap the traveler and lock light out of the witness can't get to the traveler, and therefore the witness loses and has to give up, and therefore the game ends.
Yep.
And then I'm free. I can join all the Ahamkara and we can all go live in the real world.
Yeah. Now I think it was the way it was written makes me think that it was implying a sister of the narrator. Like the
Gotcha.
narrator's false sister had arrived, um, which makes me think like, is there a true sister?
Sure. Yep.
But that one's a little more like that one's a little more out there. That one's a little more of a stretch. I think some of the other evidence is more solid, but this was an interesting little point.
Yeah.
But
Well,
whew,
yeah, this is long. This
this
made
is a
up for
long
a
one.
week off. Yeah. So we're gonna release this one. Well, shoot, you already know because you're listening to it right now. This one's gonna be the day of the reveal, and
This is
then
gonna
we're
be the
gonna
day
have
before the reveal.
the day before the reveal.
Yes.
Haha! See, I'm learning my own self. So you'll have this to listen to while you're waiting for the reveal.
Yep. And then we are going to be doing a reveal episode as well. That'll be coming out as soon as possible after the reveal. We just need time to actually watch it and digest it and figure out our thoughts and then
Then dissect it.
record.
Yeah. Watch, digest, dissect. Done.
Yeah, there you go. So look forward to that. That'll be again probably Tuesday or Wednesday, and then we will not be having a episode for that following Tuesday because we're doubling up on this week. So
Yeah. All sorts of craziness mashing up together at once.
oh yeah.
Well, let's end with some shout outs then.
Yes, and we have some shout outs this time around. So we we're going to start here. Coming to us from Twitter. We have a shout out from Mike D123, who says, "Our guardian family just had a long road trip and we listened to the whole Hive saga. Really appreciate your deep research and obvious passion for the lore. Greetings and thanks from Switzerland."
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, so
Hell yeah. We're international.
there you
I keep
go.
forgetting we're international.
I know
Yeah.
it's crazy to see downloads coming from other countries. It's wild.
The Hive stuff was super fun. That was the first big series we did, and I
Yep.
absolutely loved it. And I really love these bigger series that we're doing. I love the smaller ones too because we get really deep into some of these theories. But I do love the big ones that are like let's establish a timeline for Destiny.
Yes, I like the ones that allow us to kind of give some kind of chronological order to things. Um, and it it's cool that you have a guardian family and you guys were
Yeah.
apparently they were okay with listening to. That's a long one, the Books of Sorrow
Yeah.
for a road trip. So thank you to them
Worth
as
it.
well. But
Absolutely. I
but
know I'm
yeah.
a Guardian family. My wife and I and my son, we all play. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So alrighty. The next shout out here comes to us on Twitter as well. They say, "I've been going through a lot lately, and that has been putting me into a deep depression on the verge of losing my smile and optimism. So I want to thank you two for always making me smile and laugh, even when I feel I have no right to. Amazing creations. Hashtag 1-800-WITNESS."
1-800-WITNESS. Let's go. Yeah, no, that's I talk about it a lot in our on our episode with Shaira. Like, there is a lot of help out there to be had, and I take part of it myself. I have a therapist I see twice a week, or not twice a week, every 2 weeks. So yeah, I get where you're coming from, man.
Yep,
Just
absolutely.
as 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 shitty as the world can be, there is some good in it. There is, and sometimes it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot, but we'll try to get some good through.
Yeah. No, happy to do whatever we can. To help you and anyone else, have a little more of a bright spot for their day. But yeah, like we said, or like was said in the Shira episode, it's okay to not feel okay.
Yeah,
Um, and I know things are difficult for a lot of people right now. Uh, but we we just kind of have to try and do what we can to lift each other up and have confidence to keep moving forward. So,
yeah.
but yeah,
Spread happiness if you can. Spread joy if you can.
absolutely,
Keep happy vibes everywhere. I like happy vibes. I don't like feeling sad. Feeling sad sucks.
it does.
So yeah, I'd much rather feel happy. So I try to do my part and spread as much happiness as I can.
Yeah. But thank you for listening, and hopefully this episode gave you a couple smiles too.
Yeah.
But moving on to the next one here. This is another one from Twitter. This is from
We
a
keep calling it Twitter. Isn't it the platform formerly known as
No,
Twitter?
no, it's just
It's,
Twitter. It's just Twitter.
isn't it X?
No, I refuse.
I can't even say it with a straight face.
So this one comes to us from LPU Soldier, who says, "I just started listening just started listening to your podcast, and it sounds like good stuff to listen to while at work. Started on the Clovis Bray set, and will be back tracking to hit the earlier ones. Looking forward to all of your episodes."
Clovis Brays. That's still my favorite, I
That
think.
was a fun one. That was a
I had a
very fun
lot
one.
of fun with that one. That was a lot of theories, a lot of ideas, a lot of timeline stuff. That Clovis Bray one was good. I liked it. We really dove into that one. I
Yeah.
very much enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one a lot. Super excited for you to listen to some of our other stuff. I will give you the warning I give everybody. The
The
earlier stuff was
audio is
real
so
early.
shit.
Like we
Especially that like those books of sorrows, those might have been like our first recordings not on PSN. Like
they might have been. Yeah.
that might have been our first like Discord style recording. Like yeah. those yeah. Those
Yeah.
are rough days, man.
So I think there's good content in there still. And we did the best that we could with what we had at the time, but
That
just to
being
warn
Myth's
you.
editing skills.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. And you and many others seem to like listening to us at work. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'd listen to us at work too, but you know.
Yeah. Alrighty. So next one also comes to us from the platform I just won't name now.
Take that.
Comes to us from Pokey Panda, who says,
Oh.
because video game, I've fallen in love with the Destiny lore, and for some vexed reason, F and Tolan send me your way by being a quadruple agent of the Dredgen.
God dang quadruple agents. Shit.
Because I absolutely love you guys, and I always love when Zor says, well, shit. Hashtag merchandising.
Merchandising. Yeah, it's got to go merchandising in there.
Oh,
Yeah, no, that's awesome, dude. I love that all of our little like
all the callbacks.
that's like all of our little Mimi stuff, like it all in one continuous saying. I don't. It's like the greatest.
It's pretty impressive.
You win the internet today, good person.
Oh, but no, glad you're enjoying it. So thank you. Our final shout out for this episode comes to us from Apple Podcasts. Person was kind enough to leave a 5-star review, so thank you very much for that. It's coming to us from username Baked Elroy.
Yeah, like from the Jetsons. Wait, isn't Elroy the kid?
I'm not gonna speculate.
Let's go.
But they say, you guys are amazing. Been playing Destiny since D1 Taken King and got really into the lore during D2 Vanilla. I only discovered your podcast a few months ago, and I can't believe I had never discovered you before. When I did, I was instantly hooked. I tried to listen to you guys at work, but whenever I would get a phone call, email, or just general task, I would get visibly upset that my myths and stories were being interrupted.
Yeah, you tell those people to f off. No, don't do that. I do not.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't listen to Zor.
Seems I'll have to get a good pair of headphones. Anyway,
Yes.
love the podcast, love your chemistry. Please keep things going.
Will do.
And P.S. Their favorite line from Zor is, "Damn it, Myth."
God dang it. Dang it, Bobby. Yeah, that's what I think. I should start doing that. I should start doing, dang it, Myth.
Yeah. Yeah. No, don't do that.
I'm not doing that. I can't do a good Hank. Propane and propane accessories. Lord knows that's probably copywritten. I just screwed the hell out of us.
Yep. That's probably
well.
exactly what happened.
Oh, well.
Alrighty. Well, that is all of the shout outs for tonight. Say if you liked what you heard, and you want to do something to support us, leave a review on your platform of choice, even if it's just however many stars. If you feel strongly enough, you want to leave a text review, you please do so, or you can reach out on platform I will not name, which is at Myths and Stories, Z instead of an S and Stories, and you may hear yourself on a future shout out.
I'm going to thank Bob again, because I'm pretty sure that that's the same Bob that opens the portal.
Fair enough.
So yeah, thank you, Bob the Goblin, who I can now no longer shoot.
Yeah. Yep.
Alrighty. Anything else, Smith?
That's it.
Alrighty. Well, then from all of us lore daddies to all of you guardians out there, we'll see you next time.